Hi, aniquest here. This is my recap for the anime Kaiju No. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. The story starts in this chill city that gets straight up attacked by this monster called Kaiju. The emergency Kaiju alarm goes off all over the city, and people gotta hustle to safety spots. This thing is massive, wrecking everything in its path. So the defense force rolls up and starts blasting at it. This ain't the first time humanity's dealt with this crap, so peeps watching are waiting to see which division of the defense force gonna show up. And it's the 3rd division, and they swoop in ready to wreck that Kaiju. One girl from the division comes in packing this huge cannon, and she uses its crazy power to straight up blast a hole through the Kaiju, taking it out like a boss. After all that, our main dude Kafka is straight up amazed at the size of that monster. Body parts scattered everywhere. He tells his crew they're gonna be working overtime for a while. That's for sure. The nearby citizens cheer for the 3rd division, because they finished their mission with no casualties. Kafka walks over, blown away by the crowd that gathered. While the heroes walk away from the defeated monster, Kafka heads towards it, because his job ain't done when the battle ends. Him and his crew do the dirty work that nobody cares about and nobody appreciates. They gotta take apart the defeated Kaijus and dispose of them. Kafka does his thing, taking a sample of the monster and stashing it in a drone. Their job ain't flashy like fighting the beast, but it's a different kind of battle in its own way. That becomes crystal clear when Kafka spots someone messing with something they shouldn't and it freaking explodes, hurting someone. Luckily, Kafka's dealt with injuries like that before, so he handles the situation. These dudes got a ton of work ahead of them, and Kafka's pissed that the bosses want them to clean up this massive mess in just 1 week. Just then, Kafka gets told he gotta go to a different area cause they short-staffed, and he's shocked cause they sending him to the intestines. Kafka gets dragged away, and the others start talking about how messed up the intestines are. Kafka arrives at the intestines and instantly loses his appetite, but he's a hard worker, so he pushes through the discomfort and gets the job done. That night, Kafka gets home dead tired, and he tries to get rid of the stench from work. He catches a news report about Division 3 and their captain named Mina. This girl's only 27, and she ain't just a captain. She's slayed hundreds of Kaiju. Looking back shows that she and Kafka used to be tight, and she was all up in her feelings when they made a promise to kick Kaiju's ass together. Now Mina's blowing up big time and everybody's talking about her being a top contender for commander of the defense force. Kafka's wondering how the hell he ended up on the flip side of things, but he ain't trying to dwell on it cause that shit's too damn depressing. He tells himself that cleanin' is a legit important gig that helps people. Plus, he gets to grub on his favorite foods and has an apartment he's cool with. Kafka figures that this should be enough, and just goes to sleep. The next morning, Kafka rolls up to work and gets introduced to this part-time student who's joining their crew. Dude's name's Ichikawa, and he's dead set on joining the defense force. Kafka's coworker points out that Kafka had the same dream as him, but Kafka straight up gave up and became a veteran at the cleaning company. Ichikawa's wondering why Kafka quit, so Kafka admits he realized his abilities had limits. Dude tried his best, but there's always someone who's better. Kafka tries to keep a positive mindset, but Ichikawa ain't playing. He straight up declares he ain't never gonna give up, no matter what, so he can't wrap his head around Kafka's logic. He don't even want to understand, so he just bounces to change his clothes. Everybody thought they'd be tight cause they shared the same dream, but Kafka's fuming cause he knows there ain't no way to answer the kid's question without looking like a miserable wreck. Kafka's forced to do some soul searching and wonders if quitting is really that damn bad. They all head to work and go over the plan for the day. They decide which parts they gotta keep for research and which ones they gotta straight up destroy. Ichikawa gets stuck with the intestines. Kafka's kinda stoked cause the kid's got a dope attitude. But then he realizes he's gotta deal with intestines again for the 2nd damn day in a row. They say it's cause he's a pro at handling the shit. So Kafka swears he's gonna show everyone what he's made of. The boss calls out Kafka for all his damn complaints, but also gives props for being a hard-ass worker. If he passed the exam, he would have been a kick-ass defense force officer. Later, Kafka's happy as hell to see Ichikawa getting grossed out by the intestine mess. But he's dealing with the same nasty shit and trying not to puke. That's when Kafka notices the kid ain't brought much grub. Ichikawa gets all rude, saying he ain't hungry. But Kafka hands him a vitamin drink and insists he eats and drinks as much as he can. otherwise he ain't gonna make it through the damn workday. Kafka even offers him some nose plugs. Ichikawa turns them down, but Kafka keeps pushing, swearing it'll help him out. At the end of the damn workday, everybody gets cleaned up and one crew dips out first. Kafka's stoked cause the worst part of the cleanup should be done with. Then Ichikawa rolls up, and Kafka thinks he wants a damn rematch from their little wrestling match, but Ichikawa shocks him by actually thanking him for helping him get through the day. Before bouncing, Ichikawa mentions that the defense force changed the age limit to join. It's now 33 years old. Ichikawa knows that it's none of his business, but he could tell that Kafka looks sad when he talked about the defense force earlier. Ichikawa straight up tells him he can quit if he wants to though. But Kafka thanks him and says Ichikawa's a better dude than he thought. Ichikawa tries to keep up his edgy act, so he reminds Kafka that he doesn't actually care. But then out of nowhere, a freaking monster pops up and goes after him. Kafka swoops in and saves his ass just in the nick of time. But Kafka's all messed up. Ichikawa's shocked by the so-called Yaju, and Kafka's gotta save his sorry ass from getting wiped out again. Kafka tells him to haul ass and get help, but he refuses to leave Kafka. Kafka reminds him he's supposed to join the defense force, but he can't do anything if he's dead. Kafka demands again that Ichikawa splits, so finally he does. Kafka leads the terrifying beast on a wild chase through the streets, barely dodging its attacks. He manages to get a breather by ducking into a narrow building, busts through a pane of glass, and manages to lose the monster for a hot second. Flashback time, Kafka and Mina both lost their schools and homes. Kafka was pissed at the kaiju, but only cause they kept him from finishing his Pokemon game. Mina's disappointed cause that's all he cares about, but Kafka's trying to stay positive. As for Mina, she's sad cause her cat named Miyako died. They both get serious as they stare at all the destruction caused by the kaiju, and they both decided at the same damn time to join the defense force. They start dissing each other for this crazy idea because they're both so damn young. But eventually, they decide to have a competition to see who can become the coolest officer. Kafka was hella confident they could pull it off and declared they'd wipe out all the kaiju together. Back to the present, Kafka realizes shit ain't supposed to go down like this. But he gotta keep hauling ass because the monsters are straight up demolishing buildings to get to him. Kafka decides to stand up to the monster, thinking he must go for its legs. But damn, he doesn't stand a chance because the monster straight up attacks him right away. Kafka's thinking, why the hell did it have to end up like this? He screams in pure agony as the monster stomps on him, breaking his damn leg. Kafka's lost all hope because the monster's about to eat him. But out of nowhere, Ichikawa swoops in and saves his sorry ass just in the nick of time. Kafka calls him an idiot, but Ichikawa explains he already called the defense force for backup. Kafka meant he was an idiot for coming back in the first place, but Ichikawa points out that if he had abandoned Kafka, he would never be able to become a defense force officer. That's when Kafka has flashbacks to when he got that rejection letter from the defense force and saw his dreams go up in smoke. He straight up curses himself for being so freaking useless while Ichikawa gets thrashed by the monster. Kafka's pissed cause he ain't changed at all. He couldn't even protect his friend's cat, and now he can't even protect the new kid at work. His frustration builds up, and he lets out a primal scream of rage just as the beast is about to wipe out Ichikawa. But out of nowhere, the monster gets blown to freaking pieces, leaving both dudes shocked. Then this female voice announces that the target's been wiped out, and Kafka's blown away when he sees Mina rolling up with the 3rd Division crew. She has her squad take care of the injured peeps, while she and the others go check for more monsters. They check on Kafka, but he's in rough shape and not responding. That night at Yokohama Hospital, Kafka's mind is blown by how freaking amazing Mina's become. She straight up obliterated that terrifying monster in an instant. Kafka realizes she's gone to a place he can never reach. He thought he was all alone, but then he's shocked to find out Ichikawa's right next to him. Ichikawa points out that if Kafka hadn't rescued him and told him to run, he would be dead right now. Kafka's even more shocked when Ichikawa says he's cool. Kafka thinks about their competition to be the coolest officer. Ichikawa thinks Kafka should be an officer, but once again says it's up to him. Kafka snaps out of his negative mindset and straight up punches himself, wondering how long he was gonna keep looking the other way. He thanks Ichikawa and tells the kid he's a damn good person. Kafka still ain't thinking giving up is a bad move, but he knows damn well he can't fool himself. So he steps up and confidently declares he's gonna aim to be a defense force officer once again. But before he can bask in his heroic declaration, he gets a rude awakening when he's freaking shocked to see a monster hovering above him. This freaking thing says it's found him and shoves itself right into Kafka's mouth. Ichikawa wonders if he is okay, but Kafka's clearly not good, gasping for air and thrashing around like a haunted. Ichikawa checks on him, and he's straight up shocked to find a monster in Kafka's bed. Kafka just casually looks at Ichikawa and then casually checks out his own reflection. Eventually, the shock hits them both, so Kafka tries to calm Ichikawa down, telling him it's just him. Ichikawa chills out. But then some old dude shows up and calls the defense force. Both dudes start freaking out, thinking about what the defense force does to kaiju, so they're panicking like crazy. Ichikawa tells Kafka to haul ass and run. Another flashback shows Kafka teaching Mina how to take down a kaiju. He schools her on attacking the legs and tying the sucker up. Mina's scared as hell at the thought of fighting a monster, so Kafka promises her he'll be right there by her side when the time comes. Back to the present, Mina's thinking about how that was all a lie. But then she gets the news that a kaiju's been spotted at Yokohama Hospital, and she declares that she'll handle it. She's gonna roll out with her officers and straight up eliminate that kaiju. Once Mina's squad is all set, she gathers them up and spills that there's a freaking kaiju chilling at the hospital, and it's their damn mission to take it down without hurting the people. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Kafka and Ichikawa are still messing with the old dude. They're trying to show him it's just a huge-ass misunderstanding, making Kafka look as harmless as humanly possible. But that's tough when Kafka's got a freaking face like that. Shit hits the fan when the old man has a heart attack and kicks the bucket. Kafka tries to check on him. He puts his hand on the wall and accidentally smashes it by accident. He can't believe this crap is happening to him. But now the whole damn hospital is paying attention. Since the defense force is probably already on the way, Ichikawa suggests Kafka bounces. Kafka agrees because sticking around would just cause more problems. But when he tries to open the window, he forgets about his superhuman strength and wrecks more property. Ichikawa brushes it off and says they should dip since Kafka's presence is freaking everyone out. So they both leap out through the wall's hole and head into the city. The defense force gets word that the rogue kaiju has fled the hospital and is heading straight for the city, so they gear up to intercept it. Meanwhile, Ichikawa's hauling ass through the city streets, wondering when the hell Kafka turned into a freaking kaiju. He knows Kafka wasn't one earlier today. He even turns back to ask if Kafka's still the same person deep down. But even Kafka ain't sure who the hell he is anymore. His body's going haywire on its own, and he even ends up snacking on a random bird for no damn reason. Eventually, Kafka goes back to his less monstrous kaiju form. But there's another issue at hand. He's gotta take a leak. Ichikawa tells him to hold it in because they ain't got time for a bathroom pit stop. But Kafka says his body prob won't listen, and he'll just pee in the road. But with that said, he ain't got balls right now, so Ichikawa's wondering how the hell he plans to drain the lizard. And then shit hits the pavement. Kafka collapses on the ground embarrassed as hell, and wishes he could wipe that moment from his memory. But Ichikawa reminds him they gotta keep moving before the defense force rolls in. And speaking of that, Kafka asks if he can still join the defense force looking like this, but that's straight up impossible. The defense force is trained to take out kaijus like him. If they find him, they'll obliterate his sorry ass on sight. It's a cruel twist of fate for Kafka because even though he finally found the motivation to give it another shot and join the defense force, he now forever locked out because of his body. Ichikawa ain't got no way to comfort Kafka, but he finds a sick hideout for him to lay low for now. But before they bounce, Kafka's eyes catch something behind them, and he knows it ain't good. Ichikawa asks if it's the defense force, but no, it's way worse, it's an actual kaiju. The defense force gets word of the second kaiju attack going down, so they split up to handle both situations. Back in the city, Kafka somehow knows if this new kaiju is the same breed that messed with him and Ichikawa earlier. Ichikawa sees this as their golden ticket to dip since it'll divide the defense force's members. Plus, since Kafka's already cleared out the area with his presence, ain't nobody gonna die from this attack. They should just let the defense force deal with it. Kafka reluctantly agrees and starts making his way out of there. Meanwhile, there's a little girl going through hell because her family ain't evacuated, and her mom's trapped under a damn dresser in all the chaos. The mom tells the girl to get the hell out of there before she gets herself killed, but the girl's determined to save her mom. Sadly, all she gets is a front row seat to more nightmare fuel, as the kaiju closes in and crashes into the room like it's lunchtime. It opens its jaws wide, ready to munch on the poor girl, but just in the nick of time, Kafka delivers a badass elbow strike. That strike sends the kaiju flying several blocks away, and Kafka's mind is blown by how freaking strong his new body is. But then he remembers there are folks in trouble, so he turns to the girl and checks if she's alright. Obviously the girl's scared shitless of him, and Kafka's creepy smile ain't helping his case one bit. But when Ichikawa shows up, the girl calms down because she knows they're here to save the day. They finally free her mom, who's unconscious but gonna be fine once they get her to safety. The kaiju comes back, so Kafka tells Ichikawa to haul ass with the girl and her mom, while he stays back because he wants to lay the smackdown on this kaiju with all his might. Ichikawa peeps the lightning crackling around Kafka and realizes he doesn't want to be anywhere near what's about to go down. So he skedaddles while Kafka lines up for the most epic uppercut he's ever thrown. That kaiju gets hit so damn hard, it goes flying and then explodes from the inside out, showering everything around it with kaiju's guts. Kafka's left dumbfounded because he straight up one-punched a giant kaiju. But no matter how badass he may seem to regular folks after that victory, he's still a terrifying ass kaiju. He goes up to the girl and tells her the defense force gonna be rolling in soon to help her out. She doesn't gotta be scared no more because he's leaving now. But as he's walking away, the girl gathers up enough courage to call out and thank him for saving her and her mom. Those magical words hit Kafka like a flashback of the time he spent with Mina, trying to make his way into the defense force. And even with his messed up situation, maybe there's still a glimmer of hope for his dream. Ichikawa shouts to Kafka and says he called an ambulance, so they gotta dip before anyone shows up. Kafka turns to him after some deep thinking and declares he ain't giving up on his dream of joining the defense force because he promised to stand by Mina's side. A while later, Mina rolls up to the scene, but the whole crew's jaws drop when they see the kaijus already taken care of. She goes up to the little girl and asks what went down, but when the girl tries to retell it, she almost starts crying from all the trauma. Mina reassures the girl she ain't gotta be scared because she and the whole defense force gonna wipe all the kaiju off the face of this earth. At first, the girl's stoked to hear that, but then she takes a second and asks Mina to promise not to harm the good kaiju guy. She says the good kaiju's the one who saved her mom and off the other kaiju. But Mina's still shocked hearing good and kaiju in the same breath. On the morning news, they put together a sketch of Kafka's kaiju form based on eyewitness accounts, calling it Kaiju Number 8. It's the 8th kaiju ever to get a code name. Since the defense force ain't tracked him down yet, the cleanup crew wonders why they still ain't found him. While they're chatting it up, Ichikawa strolls into the room and drops some knowledge on what's been going down. It's been 3 months since Kafka pulled off being the first kaiju to escape the defense force, so the officers are using a whole lot of defense budget to hunt him down. The shift lead tells Ichikawa that something came in the mail for both him and Kafka. Since Kafka already dipped out early to start work, he wants Ichikawa to bring his mail to him. The other dudes already know what the mail's all about because Kafka used to apply to the defense force every year, and every damn year he'd get rejected, so the team had to lift his spirits and cheer him up. Ichikawa checks out his results and damn, he's stoked to find out he passed that shit. So he dips to give Kafka his results too. But before he leaves, he takes a quick look at Kafka's results just to make sure he ain't gonna hand him a letter of disappointment. And when he peeps at it, he's all smiles and keeps on hustling. Looks like Kafka actually pulled through this time and passed the damn test. All the homies are hyped for him because they know how bad he wanted it. Ichikawa reaches Kafka and spills that he actually passed the first round of the exams this time. But when Kafka turns around while grubbing on his lunch, Ichikawa sees he's letting his kaiju form show. Kafka realized he was in kaiju mode and could have totally blown his cover if it was anyone other than Ichikawa. Now he tries to switch back to normal, but accidentally leaves his mouth unchanged. Ichikawa goes off on him, telling him how dangerous it is for him to get spotted because there are still new stories floating around about him. Both of them manage to dodge suspicion by claiming they bounced after the kaiju attack. But if Kafka keeps pulling this shit, he's gonna get exposed sooner or later. Ichikawa hands over his results, but while Kafka is still happy, he ain't nearly as ecstatic as Ichikawa thought he'd be. Mainly because Kafka always bombed the second stage of the test, so the real hard part is still ahead for him. While they're on that topic, Ichikawa asks if Kafka really plans on taking the exam looking the way he does. The first part was a breeze because it was just a written test, but the second part's gonna have officers all over the damn place. and they'd straight up wipe him if they found out about his body situation. But even with the risk, Kafka's dead set on taking the exam. In the past 3 months, he's been trying to find a way to fully turn back into a human, but luck ain't on his side. But with the age limit, this is his last shot to actually apply, so he's gotta take a chance. Ichikawa gets where Kafka's coming from, but he makes it crystal clear that if shit goes down and Kafka's in trouble, he's on his own because in this test they're rivals. Kafka reaches down to grab his water bottle, but he struggles with the cap, accidentally transforms into his kaiju form and busts the bottle. Ichikawa takes back everything he just said and straight up tells Kafka to drop out of the exam because he's gonna end up 6 feet under. But Kafka still really wants to go for it. Ichikawa gives in, but repeats that if anything goes down during the exam he is on his own. Everyone else is about to roll up for work, so he tells Kafka to get his shit together with his transformation. Once Ichikawa bounces, Kafka lets out a sigh of relief because he passed, and he ain't know what he'd do if Ichikawa passed and he didn't. But now he gotta get ready for the damn test. On test day, Kafka and Ichikawa pull up in the parking lot of the defense force, and Ichikawa's mind is blown by the massive ass building in front of him. He'd been on a field trip to a base before, but this joint is on a whole nother level. Kafka explains they share this area with some special defense force garrison. So when shit goes down, both sides join forces to handle it real quick. In other words, if Kafka accidentally transforms here, he'd be dead in 1 second. Other test takers start showing up too, so Kafka ain't seeing the point in getting scared anymore. He tells Ichikawa they should head inside soon, but then this rude chick interrupts and calls him an old man. Kafka defends himself, saying he's only 32, so he ain't that damn old. But even Ichikawa thinks he's ancient, so he gotta accept it. Age aside, this girl straight up tells him to move his car, even though there are plenty of spots elsewhere, just because she thinks she got some special right to it because 5 is her lucky number. Kafka ain't budging for some dumb reason like that obviously, so this chick decides to flex her supposed wealth. She strips down and reveals she's wearing the same battle suit those defense force folks rock, but she ain't using it for any noble cause like fighting kaiju. Instead, she grabs Kafka's car with one hand and throws it out the spot, thinking she is all cool, but it just makes her a bitch. But being a big shot apparently gives her the right to pull this kind of shit and get away with it. She introduces herself as Kikaru and boasts about how she kills kaiju for fun, and coincidentally, she finds it hella weird that Kafka smells like a kaiju. Ichikawa breaks it down real quick that they're part of the kaiju disposal unit. Kikaru straight up loses her shit when Kafka effortlessly lifts his truck, thinking he must have his own secret power suit. Kafka introduces himself as Examine number 2032 and puts on a dramatic show, telling the kid to remember his name. But his cool moment gets interrupted when he sees Kikaru's butler taking his damn parking spot. Kikaru thought this exam would be hella boring, but now she's feeling the thrill. She swears she'll make Kafka a big joke and bounces. Ichikawa's all pissed at Kafka for already using his powers, but Kafka points out that he only transformed the part she couldn't see. They brush off some guards, saying the noise was nothing, but Ichikawa warns Kafka that if he pulls any more stunts, he's getting sent home. Kafka knows this is his last chance to stick with Mina, so he promises himself he won't give up this time. But moments later, Kafka's struggling hard during the exam. He's been keeping up with his training and busting his ass doing hard physical work every damn day, but right now he just can't keep up. Flashback to earlier when Ichikawa explains the second stage of the exam, which has 2 parts, a fitness test and an aptitude test. They can't change their aptitude, so they gotta get the best damn grades they can in the fitness test. But Kafka's having a real tough time. He's always been below average, but shit's gotten way worse. He's falling way behind, making him wonder if people really get this weak after turning 30. He thinks about transforming, but that'd be straight up crazy. Unfortunately, Kafka does hella poorly and gets a rank of 219 out of 225. Then Kikaru comes out of nowhere, revealing she ranked 5, and starts clowning Kafka, saying it didn't take long at all to make him a joke. Kafka thinks about how he dramatically told her to remember his name, but now he wants her to forget it. Ichikawa's just glad Kafka didn't use his powers, and Kafka explains it wouldn't be fair since everyone busted their asses to get there. But the truth is, Kafka was just fronting to sound cool, but deep down he wishes he had used his powers. Kafka's sure he could have done better, but Ichikawa thinks there's another reason why he got that rank. Meanwhile, Mina's checking out this year's applicants. Her subordinate assumes she won't give a damn because all she cares about is killing kaiju. But he's straight up shocked when she's down to hear more while she's working. The guy explains there's this dude named Izumo who caught his attention. He graduated top of his class and is the most promising one in this year's crew. Ichikawa noticed the dude as well, as he just ranked second. And the guy who came in third is Aiharu, the valedictorian of some fancy-ass university. But the one who took the top spot is Kaguragi, the rising star from the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. And it ain't just them, most of the examinees this year are from top-notch universities. Usually folks like them be trying to become elite officers, not field agents. That's probably why Kafka's rank is so damn low. And it hits Kafka, that's why they seem so damn strong. Ichikawa explains that even among all these badass folks, there's one person everyone's got their eyes on. She graduated from California neutralization at the ripe age of 16. She skipped grades and became the youngest ever to do it. Her name's Kikaru, and they call her the ultimate talent. The top 3 dudes are watching her, hoping they can measure up. Ichikawa points out that it's a group of crazy skilled applicants, none more so than Kikaru. Kafka admits he had no idea she was that damn impressive, but he catches a beatdown from her bodyguards for touching her. Everybody's watching, and they just assume Kafka's one of her damn fans. Kikaru laughs because she's made him a joke again, but Kafka declares he's gonna make her a joke too. Deep down though, Kafka knows things ain't going so well. But Ichikawa still has hope. The past 2 years, the second part of the test has been kaiju corpse disposal. They want to test the examinees' knowledge of kaiju and their ability to work as a team. They also want to show them there's more to the job than just killing kaiju. That's why Ichikawa chose to work part-time at the disposal unit, because it's part of the damn test. Kafka's hope gets back in the game, so they decide to go all in on the next part of the exam. They roll up to the second training spot, and this Vice Captain Hoshina from the 3rd Division steps up. He's the dude in charge of giving them their aptitude test. And in this test, they gotta hunt down some kaiju. Kafka gets hyped because he thinks they just gotta find those monsters and get rid of their bodies, like Ichikawa said. But damn, he gets a shock when Hoshina actually drops the bomb that they gotta find and take down the kaiju. Kafka's mind is blown when one of those mad strong kaiju tries to attack Hoshina, but luckily the security measures shut it down. Kafka's still shocked, but all the top guys are straight up pumped for this part of the exam. Then Kikaru starts laughing at our boy, so Kafka wonders what happened to just disposing of the bodies. Ichikawa breaks it down that's what they've been doing for the past 2 years, and he's just as disappointed. Hoshina explains that this part of the exam is dangerous as hell, so they gotta rock Izumo tech gear while doing it. Ichikawa tries on the gear, and he's mind blown as it analyzes his body and molds itself to fit him perfectly. The suit becomes one with his body, and Ichikawa can even feel his muscles getting stronger. These suits are legit Demon Defense Force combat gear made from organic material ripped from the kaiju. They boost the combat power of the wearer like crazy. Meanwhile, Konomi, the operator from the 3rd Division, says she's gonna start measuring the combat power unleashed by those wearing the suits. Ichikawa's at 8%, Izumo's at 18%, Kaguragi's at 15%, and Aiharu is at 14%. Unleashed combat power shows how much of the suit's power they can tap into. Even after mad training, it usually hovers around 20%, and they're lucky if they get one applicant a year who hits over 10%. But these 3 dudes are all above 10%. So Hoshina wonders if this year's gonna be off the charts. Then shit gets real when Konomi sees Kikaru's unleashed combat power is at 46%. Everyone's in awe of her, and Hoshina thinks how she's already at a platoon leader level, and she ain't even joined the force yet. They assume this must be some kind of record. Ichikawa feels down on himself because he's only at 8%, but Hoshina tells him that's still pretty solid for a first-timer. As long as the examinees ain't rocking a big fat 0, they'll pass, and Hoshina straight up admits he's never even seen a 0 before. But hey, there's a first time for everything, and everyone's shocked once again because Kafka's unleashed combat power is revealed to be a big fat 0. Everyone's straight up laughing at him, and even Konomi starts wondering if there was some kind of glitch or mistake. Kafka tells them to give him a bit more time, because he's trying to squeeze out that combat power. But damn, Hoshina can't control his laughing, and straight up tells him this ain't like using the bathroom where you can just squeeze it out. Hoshina's starting to like Kafka's vibe. but he's pretty sure Kafka ain't gonna pass the exam. Kafka starts thinking there might be some kind of secret or trick to boosting his percentage, so he works his ass off trying to figure it out before the exam ends. Kikuru's getting real frustrated with him and wishes he'd just show the power he used back in the parking lot. Then Hoshino walks in and announces it's time for the final part of the exam. He explains that they gotta take down 1 Hanju and 36 Yaju spread out in an urban training area. These kaiju caused 16 casualties, and they've been captured alive for training purposes. The examinees gotta fight them with anti-kaiju weapons while drones monitor their moves. If the drones sense an examinees in danger, they'll activate the shield in their suits to save them. But that also means they fail the exam. This shit is crazy dangerous, so Hoshina can't guarantee they'll even survive. They gotta decide if they want to take part, and Hoshina kicks off the test. The examinees rush forward with mad eagerness, but everyone's stunned when Kikuru jumps ahead and easily takes down 2 Yaju. She's straight up amazing everyone. Kafka declares they need to push ahead or they'll fall behind, but Ichikawa points out Kafka's the one holding them back. Kafka defends himself by saying the weapons are heavy as hell without the suit's help. He tries to sound all cool by saying only he the Zero can understand this, but Ichikawa ain't feeling it cool at all. Things ain't looking good because Ichikawa's pointing out they don't have the same offensive power as the others. Just then Hoshina drops a bomb and reveals that Mina has shown up to watch the damn exam. Kafka remembers their challenge to see who can be the coolest defense force officer, and he calms himself down. He stops giving a damn about being a Zero and reminds himself that this is his last chance. Kafka figures something out and asks Ichikawa why the hell they got drones watching them. If they just want to keep count of how many kaiju they've taken out, they could easily do that with sensors. But it ain't about that. Besides testing their skills, they're also checking how well they can adapt to the situation. Kafka and Ichikawa realize that since they ain't packing the same offensive power as the others, they gotta focus on supporting the attackers as best as they can. They spot a fight going down nearby, so they position themselves to lend a hand. Kafka notices the hooves of this Yaju and remembers it from one of his cleanups. His experience pays off because he knows stun grenades mess this Yaju up big time. It's got weak eyesight but crazy good hearing. Once it's deafened, it's an easy target. But Kafka ain't done showing off his expertise. He tells Izumo to aim for its stomach because that's its weak spot. The attackers follow his lead and are shocked when they take the beast down. They thank Kafka for the sick support, but Kafka's pissed because he calls them Kikuru's fan. In the observation room, they actually start paying attention to what Kafka and Ichikawa are doing. Kafka points out to Ichikawa that they've taken apart more kaiju bodies than they can even count. He's feeling confident now because they can use that knowledge. Kafka's relieved because he don't need his kaiju power anymore. He's finally stoked because he can make up for all his screw-ups. But all that optimism comes crashing down real quick because a kaiju pops out of nowhere. This thing sends Kafka flying into a building, and Konomi detects that he's seriously messed up. He can't keep fighting, and the damn Yaju is closing in on him. They get ready to activate his suit shield. Kafka knows they'll probably use the shield, but he also knows that means he fails the exam. He's aware that Mina's watching, so he tries to force himself up. He refuses to embarrass himself in front of her anymore. But this damn beast is about to chow down on him. Konomi starts activating the remote shield, and Hoshina thinks about how he knew Kafka would be the first to drop out. He finds it a damn shame because Kafka was a hilarious dude. But just then, the Yaju gets blown to pieces, and Kikuru points out that she's made Kafka a joke for the 3rd time. And she straight up declares that as long as she's on the battlefield, nobody's allowed to quit. Kafka's blown away by her, but before he can say anything, she cuts him off. She announces that she's gonna keep kicking Kaiju's ass and tells him to just lie there on the ground like a damn loser. The other dudes can see she's going for the main target, but they ain't just gonna let her have it. Kikuru easily takes out another Yaju, and Aiharu thinks she's just way too powerful and wonders if she really has the same suit they do. Kafka wants to go after the main target too, but his leg's busted and he can't even stand up. Hoshina explains Kafka's got multiple fractures and might even have organ damage. Kafka wonders if this means he's gotta give up, but he refuses to let himself think like that. He remembers how shitty it felt to see he had 0% combat power, like he could never stand by Mina's side. He gets pissed off thinking about how only the talented ones pass. Hoshina suggests Kafka just drop out and explains the suit shields ain't foolproof. But Kafka ain't having it. He thinks about how he's the one who decides if he gives up or not. He declares that even though he's too damn old for dreams, and even if he looks like a total idiot, he's gonna bet his whole damn life up to this point and chase his dreams again. As Kafka makes this declaration, everyone in the observation room is straight up shocked to see his combat power go up by 0.1%. Kafka declares that this time he ain't giving up, no matter what, and Mina takes notice. Kafka proudly shows he can still stand up, and Konomi's mind is blown because the dude's leg is freaking broken. Hoshina decides to let him roll with it, but he warns that if shit gets real bad, he's activating the shield. Kafka tells Ichikawa to go on ahead because that was the deal, but Ichikawa decides to back him up instead. Kafka realizes that's just the kinda dude Ichikawa is, so he accepts the help. Hoshina can't help but laugh at them while Ichikawa carries Kafka. Ichikawa admits he's hella embarrassed, but they both got serious determination. Kafka's busted bones are hurting a lot, so Ichikawa's gonna be their legs, and Kafka's gonna use all his smarts to handle the attacks. Hoshina's just trying to pass them by because they're cracking him up with their comedy act. Kafka tells Ichikawa to stick with Kikaru, and he's amazed at how fast his buddy is. Kikaru's busy kicking ass and leaving everyone in her dust as she takes down a bunch of kaiju, so Ichikawa tells Kafka to be ready to back her up when they catch up. All the dudes are watching Kikaru do her thing, and they're bummed because she won't even let them help. Konomi announces that Kikaru wiped out the last Yaju in the area and is already taking on the Hanju. Kikaru throws a grenade to piss off the beast and uses the opportunity to get in perfect position to annihilate it. Kikaru calmly says that this is the last one as she slowly pulls the trigger, and this makes Hoshina smirk as she blasts the monster. Konomi's stunned as she announces that the Hanju's defeated and the final part of the exam is finished. Our boys are all shocked because they didn't even get to lend a hand, and Kafka declares Kikaru's just too fast. Now Konomi just needs to retrieve the drones and send medics for the injured. Hoshina's surprised the exam ended so quick, even though it took forever to set up. Mina's impressed because Kikaru's even more badass than the stories say, and Hoshina's shocked that Kikaru caught Mina's attention. They thought at least 30 people would drop out, but no one did, and Hoshina's convinced it's all because of Kikaru. That's what you should expect from director Shinomiya's daughter. Hoshina's sure she's gonna be a big shot in the defense force, bringing hope to the whole damn country. Back at the damn exam, Kikaru's praying she made her pops proud by being flawless on the battlefield. She's chilling and decides to go clown on Kafka some more. But out of nowhere, this freaky-ass monster shows up behind her and straight up wrecks the shit, causing massive damage. And then all the dead kaiju start moving again, and everyone's freaking horrified. Kikaru barely manages to protect her heart by focusing her whole shield on one spot, but she figures she can still fight. She's stunned when this mysterious monster starts talking, and it's wondering how the hell she's still moving. Kikaru figures out it's a kaiju, but she's mind blown to see it's got some brains too. Kikaru decides to charge at it, but this monster straight up smacks her multiple times and she screams in agony. Konomi's all shocked seeing Kikaru's vitals dropping like crazy. They got no clue what the hell's going on, but they're picking up live signals from the kaiju they already took out. And here's the messed up part, this revived Hanju's estimated fortitude is 6'4", way stronger than before. Hoshina thinks how it takes an entire crew to take down a kaiju at that level, with not many people able to take it down quick. Then out of nowhere, Mina tells Konomi to activate all remote shields for examinees and send back some drones. Hoshina thinks how luckily the two of them are some of the few capable of defeating this Hanju, so they gear up and head out. Examinees are told to dip, but Kikaru refuses, figuring lots of folks will lose their lives if she doesn't stop this thing herself. She uses her suit to stop the bleeding and realizes she can still throw down. And then Kikaru remembers her pop's words, telling her to be perfect for their nation. Now she's demanding perfection from herself, but damn, the Hanju knocks her aside like it's nothing. She can barely move, but she still ain't giving up. We take a trip down memory lane and see Kikaru all proud because she got the top grade in class. The other students didn't do as well, but at least their parents were there to celebrate with them. Kikaru tried staying positive though, as her butler assured her that her dad would be home that day and surely be pleased with her score. But in reality, her pops couldn't give a damn about her top grade. He straight up said celebrating one success was just setting her up for failure next time. Instead of throwing a party, he wanted her to focus on the next goal. That's when he dropped the bomb on her. She gotta be flawless all the damn time. not just for the future of their nation, but for her late mama too. The words from her pops still weigh on her to this day, but she ain't taking it lying down. He always told her to keep pushing forward and never let nobody outshine her. So now she ain't taking no loses even with just one arm. As long as she can move, she gonna throw down. But damn, she has been through too much damage, and she gotta scream again because the pain's unbearable. Just then, one of the drones spots the Hanju, and Konomi's all shocked to see that its severed offensive uni organ has regenerated. Hoshina's getting real worried, while Konomi figures it's gathering energy for a major attack. Hoshina and Mina are rushing to the scene, but he ain't sure if they gonna make it in time. This beast is getting ready to unleash a massive attack, and Kikaru figures she's done. She apologizes to her pops for not being perfect and starts crying. The Hanju's about to unleash its attack, then out of nowhere, Kafka shows up and tells her she did a dope job. Kikaru's absolutely mind blown, wondering why the hell he's there, and then the monster attacks. But Kikaru's even more shocked when they ain't getting hurt, and Kafka starts transforming. Kafka explains she did a good job buying time for everyone to evacuate, so she can leave the rest to him. Meanwhile, everyone's scrambling like crazy to evacuate. Kaguragi is using flares to organize the whole thing, which impressing Izumo. Let's take a look back a few moments ago, and we see Kafka and Ichikawa being told to get the hell out of there, not to go back because Kikaru's fighting the revived Hanju. Ichikawa's ready to bounce, but Kafka already vanished. Ichikawa's hoping Kafka ain't crazy enough to transform because he knows he'll get wiped out on the spot if he does. But as Ichikawa rushes to the scene, he realizes Kafka definitely got that crazy streak because he don't hesitate in these kind of situations. Going back to Kikaru, she's straight up mind blown by Kafka's transformation, and she can't wrap her head around how he turned into a kaiju. Kafka tries to play it cool, begging her not to spill to the defense force. But then Kikaru's terrified as the Hanju busts out its crazy powerful attack again, but Kafka effortlessly deflects it like it's nothing. Kafka tells her he'll spill the deets in a second because he only needs a split second to take out this beast. At the same time, Konomi detects some supremely intense energy near the Hanju. The explosion messed up their comms so they can't see what's going on. They got readings on its strength though, but Konomi straight up refuses to believe it's real. Supposedly this mystery beast got a strength rating of 9.8. Hoshina says it's impossible and thinks the explosion messed up the measurement system. It just can't be true because if it were, this would be one of the most powerful kaiju in history. Kafka powers up like the insane powerhouse he is. He apologizes to the Hanju because time's running out and he gotta end it with one punch. Kikaru watches in absolute awe as Kafka's punch collides with the Hanju's punch, blowing that sucker to bits. The shock on her face is plain to see and the Hanju's body parts get scattered everywhere. Kafka's feeling himself, telling the monster to try coming back to life after that beatdown. But the thing starts moving again, so Kafka begs it to stop, as he was just joking. The monster is really defeated though, and Kikaru's left wondering who the hell this dude is. Kafka saves her from another attacking Yaju, and finally reveals his face. He assures her she's safe now, but gives her a scolding for putting herself in so much danger. But before long, the tables turn and Kafka's the one getting scolded when Ichikawa rolls up. Kafka explains he only planned on transforming part of his body, but had to switch things up when he saw the Hanju. Ichikawa keeps laying into him, but the argument ends when Kikaru passes out. Soon enough, Mina and Hoshina show up at the scene, but they can't even fathom what could have caused that much damage to the Hanju. Just then, Konomi reports that Kikaru, Ichikawa, and Kafka made it out, meaning the evacuation's all done and dusted. Hoshina admits that Kikaru is hella strong, but there ain't no way she could have straight up obliterated the Hanju like that. Mino points out that there's a bunch of stuff they don't understand, with the kaiju coming back to life and this massive blast area. Mina then orders an investigation unit to check out the area while she and Hoshina finish off the rest of the Yaju. Hoshina realizes this blast is similar to what they saw 3 months ago, and he wonders if there's some connection going on. Later we see Kafka back in another damn hospital. Ichikawa explains that Kikaru's getting treated with the best tech the defense force has to offer. Kafka reflects on the exam and how it reminded him just how damn hard it is to compete against super talented folks. It also reminded him that when you're chasing your dreams, there's always going to be someone out there who's beating you at the things you care about the most. But most importantly, it got him so hyped up that he couldn't even care. Kafka's glad he decided to take the exam again, and he thanks Ichikawa for giving him that push. Out of nowhere, Mina shows up surprising everyone. She just thanks them for taking care of Kikaru and disappears just as quick. Kafka almost calls out to her, but he holds back because it ain't the right time. He wants to wait till he becomes an officer to talk to her. He's more confident than ever that it's gonna happen, and he silently promises himself that she better watch him out. Nearby, Kikaru has a nightmare about not being perfect for her pops. She wakes up wondering if her dad's arrived, but it's just Hoshina. He explains that there were no casualties, and it's all thanks to her kicking the Hanju's ass. The shock on her face makes Hoshina wonder if she really was the one who took it down. Kikaru remembers what Kafka said, so she declares that she was the one who straight up eliminated the Hanju. That night, a news report breaks down what went down at the exam and reveals that while a bunch of folks got injured, there were nobody died. In some bathroom stall, we see the mysterious and smart-ass kaiju listening in. He's shocked and disappointed to hear that there were no damn fatalities at all. Just then the phone rings, and the monster reminds himself how to answer it. When he picks up, the voice on the other end tells him to get back to work. This monster transforms and puts on his uniform, and shockingly we see that he's a new member of Kafka's disposal unit. Everyone's hoping Kafka and Ichikawa are alright after the exam incident, and this new guy ominously hides his transformation. A while later, Kafka's straight up freaking out about the exam, and he's putting the blame on Ichikawa because he's the one who convinced him to sign up again. But Kafka ain't got time to be anxious no more because the boss rolls in and says both Ichikawa and Kafka got mail. Kafka knows this is his last shot at having a chance to stand next to Mina, so he pulls out the paper all nervous like to see his results. On the day of the entrance ceremony, Izumo steps up to Kaguragi to give him props and congratulate him on passing. But Izumo was pretty damn sure Kaguragi would pass anyway, so it ain't a surprise to see him there. Honestly, the people who passed are exactly what he expected, but he doesn't see Kafka anywhere. Kaguragi asks if Izumo wanted Kafka to pass, but it ain't exactly that Izumo just finds him interesting. Right then, Kikaru shows up, and she's all boasting about her epic victory during the test. And she got every right to because she's actually the best fighter here. Before meeting her, both Kaguragi and Izumo thought they'd be fighting for the top spot. But now Izumo thinks they're stuck battling for second place. Kaguragi fires back saying he scored the highest in the physical fitness test, so he'll keep aiming for number 1 even if Izumo wants to quit. In another part of the hall, Ichikawa bumps into another one of the successful candidates, and the dude recognizes him from the exam but can't remember his name. Ichikawa reintroduces himself and the guy does the same, saying he's called Aiharu Furuhashi, but he wants them to be on a first-name basis, so he tells Ichikawa to call him Rino, and in return he wants to be called Aiharu. Now that they're all acquainted, Aiharu asks what went down with Kafka, and if he somehow flunked the test, but it seems like the situation's a bit more complicated than that. Right then, an announcement is made that Mina's rolling in, so everyone shuts up as she walks in. Once Mina takes the stage, the induction ceremony is about to begin officially, so Kikaru is asked to step up and speak on behalf of the new class. As Kikaru steps up on stage, Mina hands the class roster and welcomes them to the Defense Force. She also gives a special shout out to Kikaru for helping out after the exam incident, because thanks to her, there were no casualties at all. Kikaru feels a bit guilty about getting all that praise from Mina, but she ain't the one who took down that kaiju. Kafka should be the one hearing these words right now, so why isn't he here? The dude not only saved her life, but also looked out for her like she was a little kid, and she feeling a bit embarrassed about it. But looks like she doesn't gotta worry about that because Kafka sneaks into the room all sheepish like rocking his fresh Defense Force uniform a moment later. A bunch of people stoked to see him, but they need some context to know how he managed not to fail. Truth is he straight up bombed the exam. He had the lowest score in the fitness test and 0 attitude for the suits, so it was a clear failing grade. Ain't nobody disputing that evaluation, and even though Mina wants to have Kafka's back, she knows she can't play favorites like that. But Hoshina's ready to give Kafka all the special treatment in the world. Dude says he'll take him under his wing. He justifies it by saying that Kafka's scores might be trash, but in the practical part of the test, he was spot on in identifying the weak points of the kaiju and prioritizing helping the whole kaiju extermination effort instead of just racking up his own kills. Ain't many people with those skills, but the reason Hoshina wants Kafka on board is because he thinks the dude's funny. Hoshina wasn't sure if Kafka would ever meet the requirements to become a full officer, But for now, he wants to keep him as a cadet in his platoon. Mina breaks it down for everyone that Kafka ain't a full officer yet, so she has him sit out the induction ceremony. But that still means he passed. Now that that's settled, Hoshina steps up and asks Mina to say a few words to the new officers. She grabs the mic and addresses everyone, saying she's glad they all stepped up and volunteered for the defense force, putting in that work to pass that tough-ass exam. In the past few years, they've been dealing with kaiju that got way more fight in them than ever before. Plus, they gotta worry about weird incidents where the kaiju might come back to life. Mission's about to get more dangerous than ever, and some folks might not make it out alive. Ain't no guarantees, so she wants them all to trust their lives to her. Through all them risky-ass missions, she promises she'll be right there, standing at the front, acting as both the shield and spear of the team. Kafka is mad moved by the speech, and he straight up blurts out that he'll make sure he stands by Mina's side too. Everyone's jaws drop because Kafka had the guts to talk to the captain like that. But Mina's actually happy as hell because Kafka ain't forgotten his promise, but she's still the captain, so she decides to teach Kafka a lesson for speaking out of turn and orders him to do 100 push-ups. Hoshina, as always, finds the whole thing hilarious and ain't regretting his decision to bring Kafka on board even a bit. But being funny ain't the only reason Hoshina wanted to recruit Kafka. When the kaiju started coming back to life, they suddenly caught signals of a 9-8 fortitude kaiju showing up. Hoshina thinks it's probably a glitch, but at the same time, they lost the vital signs of one of the examinees. He knows something ain't right about Kafka because he had zero compatibility with the suit, so he's gonna keep a close eye on him to uncover the secret he's holding. Kafka just finished his brutal punishment of 100 push-ups and he's lying on the floor dead tired. That's when Kikaru rolls up to him and says she wants to talk, so she tells him to come with her. Kafka asks why she can't just talk to him here, but Kikaru doesn't want others eavesdropping, so they start teasing her, claiming she's gonna confess her love to Kafka. Kafka actually falls for it, but Kikaru shuts it down and kicks him right in the face while Ichikawa watches with disapproval all over his face. Later, the three of them chill in an empty diner. Kafka just spilled to Kikaru about what went down in the hospital, but she finds it hard to believe that he turned into a freaking kaiju just because he ate one. Kafka thinks it ain't no biggie to spill to the defense force about it because maybe they can find a cure or something. But Kikaru doesn't think there's a damn chance of that happening. First off, if they don't straight up murk him on the spot, they'd probably subject him to all sorts of messed up experiments. And trust me, at that point, he can kiss his dream of becoming an officer goodbye. Plus, when the kaiju are crazy powerful, the defense force uses their remains to make some special weapons after they bring them down. So it's possible they might try to do the same damn thing to Kafka. After Kafka hears about the consequences of spilling his secret, he straight up begs Kikaru to keep his shit on the down low. She ends up agreeing not to snitch because he saved her life, but she makes it clear that if she ever finds out Kafka's a kaiju who's a threat to humanity, she won't hesitate to straight up kill him. Ichikawa freezes up when he hears how serious she is. But Kafka is actually relieved because he wouldn't want to stay alive if he posed a danger to society. Later, Ichikawa's in a training exercise, learning how to use the anti-kaiju guns like a pro. He's doing pretty damn good, finishing the course in just over 2.5 minutes with a suit activation rate of 18%. He's come a long way since he first joined. Because of that, Aiharu feels the pressure to do just as well because he can't let himself be outshined. Through some petty competition, Aiharu manages to beat Ichikawa's time and gets an activation rate of 20%. He wastes no time rubbing it in Ichikawa's face, but then he gets a reality check that there's always someone better when Kikaru shatters his record by a whole minute, and her suit's at 55% power. She wastes no time gloating and letting him know she's superior. Meanwhile, Izumo feels all inadequate because of Kikaru's superior look, but Kaguragi reminds him that if he's got time to worry, he's got time to train, otherwise people are gonna catch up to him in no time. Right now, Kaguragi and Izumo are on equal ground in terms of battle power, and Kafka's off doing his own thing, exciting as hell because he finally got his suit up to 1%. He turns to Kikaru and proudly declares that he's turned his 0 into a 1. But she doesn't get why he's bragging about it when she's at 55. Hoshina still finds Kafka amusing, but he straight up tells him he ain't gonna become an officer at this rate. At best, he'll last 3 months before getting the boot. After hitting Kafka with some hard facts, he tells everyone they gotta run 10 laps around the perimeter, and then the training's done for the day. They think it's unfair and start complaining, so Hoshina ups the stakes and makes them run 15 laps instead. He tells them to get moving. A bunch of the new recruits have developed rivalries with each other, and Hoshina's happy about it because the competition's helping them get stronger than ever. After finishing their training, everyone heads to the baths, and Kafka is dead tired from running laps at the end of the session. But Ichikawa and Aiharu are full of energy, especially Aiharu, who's flexing his muscles like crazy. Ichikawa ain't impressed though because he's got just as much muscle mass. Kafka can't stand being left out, so he decides to show these young dudes what real manly muscles look like. Aiharu is impressed at first, but Kafka quickly runs out of breath and shows Aiharu what a real man's stomach looks like. Aiharu and Ichikawa burst into laughter at Kafka's expense, but he warns them that the same fate awaits them once they hit 28, so they better be ready. However, their confidence takes a hit when Kaguragi shows up and demonstrates what peak physical form truly means. Embarrassed, they all jump into the bath to hide their shame, but soon enough the conversation returns to normal. Kafka is just happy to be having this kind of fun after a long time. On the girls' side, Kikaru and a couple of unimportant officers enter the changing room and find Mina there. They were about to leave and let her finish, but Mina says it's cool and that she was about to leave anyway. With her permission, they all go their separate ways, and Kikaru follows behind Mina to put her clothes in the washing machine. While doing this, Kikaru notices that Mina has some solid muscles, but that alone doesn't explain the insane combat power she possesses. But all that staring got Mina's attention, so Kikaru asks her directly about how she got her muscles. Mina agrees to show her the basics of her training routine since she's there anyway. Although Kikaru wasn't expecting it, she's grateful for the kind gesture. Back to the boys, they start discussing why they joined the defense force. Aiharu goes first and explains that he joined because of Mina. She saved him from a kaiju when he was in middle school, and ever since then he's wanted to be just like her. The others have similar reasons for joining, all stemming from their admiration for Mina. When it's Kafka's turn to answer, he gets a bit flustered but eventually reveals that he's Mina's childhood friend. The boys are all jealous of him now, so Kafka tries to make a quick exit before things get too heated. However, it's already too late now as they want to hear every juicy detail about Mina's childhood. They end up chilling in the bath for so damn long that when Kikaru finally comes out, they're all passed out from heat stroke, and Ichikawa's stuck there trying to revive their sorry asses. The next day, training goes on as usual, and the recruits start bonding over the time they spend together. But Kafka still sucks big time compared to everyone else. At the end of the day, they're all dead tired from busting their asses. But while they're knocked the hell out, Kafka's still grinding to improve himself. He ain't trying to get kicked off the defense force. After a while, Hoshina walks in and finds Kafka still working. While it's admirable and shit, sleep is also a crucial part of training, so he can't just neglect that. Kafka's desperate to keep his spot and Hoshina figures it's because of some promise he made with Mina. But Kafka never told him about that, so he's wondering how the hell Hoshina knows. Hoshina admits he's been eavesdropping on their bath conversations, which is hella weird, but Kafka comes clean and admits that his motivation does come from that promise. He's gotta do whatever the hell it takes to stand by Mina's side. Hoshina interprets this as Kafka trying to snatch his vice captain position, and that's exactly what Kafka's aiming for. He's gonna work his ass off to achieve it. Before Hoshina bounces, he lets Kafka know he ain't letting go of that vice captain spot so easily, and he drops some advice. Kafka shouldn't get too close to anyone on the team, because in this line of work, anyone could die at any damn moment, especially those getting a lot of screen time. Right then, an alarm starts blaring, which means there's a kaiju emergency going down. Hoshina tells Kafka to hustle because it's time for his first mission. Konomi gives Mina a status update, letting her know that the area around them is being cleared out. It's a crazy scene with hella people waiting to hop on some buses. The defense force is working with another crew who's setting up a command post nearby. As for that Hanju that popped up, it came from underground and it's gotten even bigger, and more of those Yaju things started showing up too. Mina ain't playing around though. She decides she's gonna handle that Hanju herself and finds a spot to snipe from. Mina gives everyone some good luck vibes and they head out. Hoshina declared it was time to hunt some kaiju, and Ichikawa's trying to wrap his head around the fact that this is their first mission. Kikaru's staring at Kafka. Can't believe he's kaiju number 8. She's dead serious about hoping he doesn't let her down, but of course the dude's about to throw up. Somewhere else, we get a scary ass look at that massive Hanju and the evacuation shelter. Kafka and the rest of the Hoshina platoon gather at the neutralization area, and Kafka's getting his first glimpse of that giant monster. Hoshina explains that Mina's crew will handle that Hanju, but the problem is it's popping out a shitload of Yaju. Their job is to make sure those Yaju don't escape the neutralization area. Since they're new recruits, they gotta hold down the rear. But that also means they're the last line of defense. Ain't nobody got questions because they're all focused on the mission. So Hoshina gets them ready to roll. He declared no matter how good their training scores, that won't save a single life out here. It's time to show what they're made of in the real battlefield. The guys show their solidarity as they get hyped, and Hoshina tells them to have a blast out there. Civilian evacuation is done, and Mina's just 8 minutes away from her position. Kafka hits up Ichikawa and straight up says he gotta prove himself on this mission. He's thinking about how Hoshina straight up told him he won't make it 3 months at this rate, and Kafka's scared he won't get another chance to show what he's made of. Dude's feeling mad nervous, but for some reason, he's also hella excited. He can't even explain why, but Ichikawa realizes this is the job Kafka always dreamed of. So they both swear to make this first mission a banger, and they hear that the first batch of Yaju just rolled into their area. Everybody's locked and loaded, so they all jump off the roof like freaking superheroes. Kafka's all confident, shouting that this mission's gonna be a success, but he's the only one taking his sweet time climbing down the side of the building. Meanwhile, Mina rolls up to her sniper spot. Another crew's told to lure the Hanju elsewhere, so they start letting it rain on that big-ass monster. After a few attacks, that giant beast starts moving, and Hoshina's eagerly waiting to see everyone prove themselves. The fight's on, and Kafka's surprised because it ain't nothing like the damn exam. He's feeling mad calm for some reason. Now Kafka feels like his suits actually got his back, so he confidently unleashes his combat power. But damn, he gets straight up wrecked by a Yaju. His combat power's still sitting at a pathetic 1%, so Kikuru schools him, saying he's way too far up front and should chill in the rear. Some vets are hella annoyed they gotta fight alongside the rookies. They wish these newbies would just get the hell out of their way and hide somewhere. The veterans decide to play it safe and wait for the front lines to figure out the weak spots of those damn Yaju. But they're all shocked when Kikuru starts taking down those monsters like a freaking pro. She ain't about to sit around and wait, so she goes ham attacking anything that looks like a weak spot. Kikuru wipes out a bunch of Yaju, leaving the veterans in awe because rookies ain't usually packing that kind of power. Kikuru blushes when Kafka gives her props, saying she did a damn good job. But she gets all annoyed when her suit detects her heart rate shooting up. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew's working together to take down a Yaju. But Aiharu is straight up shocked when he sees Ichikawa taking one out all by himself. Ichikawa breaks it down that he swapped out the burst rounds in his rifle for freeze rounds. He wants to slow the damn Yaju down while he fights. It's a better fit for his style, and Ichikawa's confident that once he gets the hang of it, he'll be an even better kaiju hunter. But that ain't enough for him. Ichikawa's thinking about getting even stronger, so Kafka won't ever have to transform again. The other top dogs in the crew show off their skills too, taking out a bunch of Yaju. The rest of the squad can't believe how strong the newbies are. Even the leaders didn't know they had it in them. Kaguragi and Izumo start competing to see who can eliminate more kaiju, and one of the platoon leaders straight up goes into cougar mode as she drools over them. Hoshina informed her that the average unleashed combat power of the new recruits is higher than most years. There are a few standouts at the top, and they're pushing everyone else to step up their game. Reports keep coming in about Yaju getting wiped out, and Kafka's shocked to find out that Ichikawa and Aiharu are pushing forward too. Kafka starts feeling down, thinking he's holding everyone back when they're working so hard. He wonders if there's anything he can do, but then it hits him. The veterans wanted to wait and find out the weak spots of the Yaju. Kafka takes a look at one of the dead Yaju and decides he's gonna fight in his own way. The others are straight up shocked when they see Kafka messing with the corpse. He's knee-deep in that shit, and he realizes that even at just 1%, the suit makes it easy to tear apart a kaiju body. That shit's so useful. He's thinking they should hook up the cleaning industry with these suits. Kafka figures out the structure of the kaiju, but the core ain't where it's normally at in a fungal-type monster. He starts searching around, and damn, he's shocked when he finds it. He lets Hoshina know that the core of the Yaju is at the base of its neck. Kafka even spills on the best way to attack it for those with weaker attack power. But here's the real kicker. Kafka discovers that these Yaju have reproductive organs. Those white bumpy things on their rear. Yeah, if they ain't destroyed, the dead bodies could pop out new kaiju. Hoshina's mind is blown by Kafka's findings, and he tells Kanamido to spread the word. Hoshina gives Kafka props once again, and Kafka can't believe he's actually helping out the defense force. Kafka rushes off to take care of the defeated kaiju's bodies, swearing he'll do whatever it takes to be by Mina's side. But then he freezes as a massive explosion goes off. Hoshina fills him in that the main attack on the Hanju has started. They've lured the Hanju to the target zone, and the other squads are keeping it in place with suppressive fire. Mina busts out her mega weapon and gets ready to unleash hell. With everyone at a safe distance, Mina gets the green light to fire. Mina's thinking about her competition with Kafka to be the coolest officer, and she's ready to show him how far she's come. The crazy amount of power she unleashes causes the ground beneath her feet to crumble. Her suit announces that Mina's combat power is at an incredible 96%. Hoshina watches her and hopes Kafka's paying close attention too. Mina lets loose with her weapon, and that insanely powerful attack straight up obliterates the massive Hanju. Hoshina wanted Kafka to see the raw power of the person he's trying to stand beside. With the Hanju's core exposed, Mina loads another round into her weapon. She fires again, wrecking even more of the Hanju, and Konomi announces that its vitals are gone. That thing crumbles to the ground, and Konomi's a bit surprised when Mina loads a third round. Mina fires away once more, and Konomi says the Hanju ain't moving anymore. Everyone's blown away, but they're all shocked when Mina loads a fourth round into her weapon. Konomi points out that the Hanju's already down, but Mina straight up demands that Konomi give her the order to fire again, and she does. Mina takes aim and shoots at that monster yet again. Kafka's straight up in awe of Mina, and Hoshina rolls up wondering if Kafka's ready to give up on his goal. Standing by Mina's side means he's gotta match her insane strength. Hoshina straight up admits he can't even do that himself. His combat power ain't as good as hers when it comes to long-range weapons, so he can't take down the big shots like she can. But when it comes to small and mid-sized kaiju, it's a whole different story. Right then, Kafka starts freaking out because a kaiju sneaks up behind Hoshina. But it's a chance for Hoshina to flex that power he was talking about. With just a tiny move, Hoshina slices that Yaju into pieces and boldly claims he's better than Mina when it comes to monsters of that size. Kafka couldn't even catch a glimpse of his attack, and Hoshina breaks it down that his family's been a clan of kaiju hunters for generations. He goes on to spill that the captain and vice captain are the force's top dogs, which is why they rock special gear tailored to their fighting styles. Mina lets Hoshina know the Hanju's down for the count, so Hoshina tells Kafka it's finally time for the real deal to kick off. Kafka's all confused because the Hanju's already down, but Hoshina reminds him that the real issue is the swarm of Yaju still chilling inside its carcass. A crazy number of Yaju start pouring out, so Hoshina tells everyone that once they clean up the riffraff, they can bounce and head home. The recruits think he's being a little too laid back, so the veterans start clowning them for giving up so easily. They're dead set on showing the newbies that there's more to the fight game than just brute strength, so they hit the battlefield. The platoon leader Nakanoshima tells Kaguragi and Izumo they can just let the veterans handle it, but they ain't having that. They want to throw down too. Konomi peeps the new recruits and sees they're straight up worn out. Their combat power and endurance are both taking a nosedive. Hoshina points out that this mission is major, but if they can conquer it, it'll take them to the next level. Most officers cap off their career with combat power between 20 and 30%, but there's a tiny bunch who break through that barrier and become captains. Kikaru is the only new recruit who's reached that level, but Hoshina thinks there might be another one. That other person is Ichikawa. Next thing we see is Ichikawa straight up taking out another kaiju, and Aiharu is pissed. He's put in years of training at some top-notch tech college, so he can't figure out why he can't keep up with Ichikawa. Just then, they're told more Yaju have been spotted nearby, so they both head to the front lines. Ichikawa gets shocked when he peeps the jacket of the monster's sweeping company, and he's wondering why one of the cleaners is kicking it there. They try to explain that the cleaners ain't gonna be needed for a while, but they straight up get ignored. The mysterious dude is just disappointed because the reproductive organs he loaded the Yaju with got wrecked. He wonders how they found out, and he's speculating someone on the force knows all the deets about kaiju. These dudes are then shocked when the guy turns to them with his messed up face and asks if they know anything about what went down. The dude straight up gets up and points his finger right at Ihiro, and it's looking real bad. Ichikawa straight up shouts at Ihiro to get the hell out of the way, but damn, he's too slow. Ended up getting blasted right through the chest. Fortunately, he managed to keep his heart intact. But damn, the bleeding's still messing him up real bad. So Ichikawa tries to calm him down so he can use his suit to stop the bleeding. By now, they both realize this thing gotta be a freaking kaiju too. And there's only one humanoid kaiju other than Kafka, and that's kaiju number 9. They both straight up recognize it as the one that wreaked havoc during the exam. And this thing took down Kikaru like it was nothing. So they gotta be extra careful. Number 9 starts talking about how damn disappointed he is with his messed up implants, but he ain't trying to leave empty-handed. So he decides he's gonna at least snatch a live sample of a Defense Force officer. Ichikawa and Iharo, they both get spooked as hell after hearing that, but they still gotta keep their cool. So Ichikawa tries to call the platoon leader to let her know what's going down, so they can get some backup. But the transmission straight up fails because number 9 had enough time when he was human to figure out how the radio signals work. So he sets up a freaking zone around this place where no signals can go in or out. That way he can stay hidden from the defense force, because they won't be able to pick up his energy signature. And as a bonus, it stops any distress calls from getting out. He points his finger right at Ichikawa, this time ready to attack him. And even though Ichikawa knows what's coming, he still can't dodge the finger bullets completely. So he gets straight up incapacitated. Number 9's a little confused because even though he hit Ichikawa, he missed all the vital organs he was aiming for. Makes him realize Ichikawa must have some way of seeing the attacks coming. Back when Kafka and Ichikawa met up with Kikaru at the diner, she straight up wanted to fill them in about her encounter with number 9, just in case they ever ran into him. The finger bullets he is using might look like some kind of magic at first, but if you pay real close attention to his fingers, you'll be able to tell when he's about to fire, and once Ichikawa gets the hang of it, he's finally able to straight up dodge the bullets like a pro. Iharo's straight up shocked that Ichikawa was able to dodge such a quick attack. And with the time Ichikawa bought, he fires back at number 9 so that Iharo can make his escape. Iharo ain't too thrilled about being protected by Ichikawa, but he knows he ain't gonna be much help in this fight. Dude almost gets smacked again. After saving his ass, Ichikawa pleads with Iharo once more to just bounce. And this time Iharo realizes how messed up the situation is, so he listens and starts limping away. Ichikawa may be brave as hell for going against number 9 solo, but he knows Kikaru didn't stand a chance against this monster. So there's no freaking way he's gonna come out on top either. But even with the odds stacked against him, Ichikawa wants to be an officer who's willing to risk his life to save his friends, just like Kafka did for him. So he charges forward, trying to buy enough time for Iharo to make it out alive. While he's doing that, Iharo's retreating and coming to terms with the fact that Ichikawa's way stronger than him right now. He don't want to admit it, but he hit a damn wall in his training recently. Hoshina told them all that most officers hit a strength plateau around 20 or 30% compatibility, but he also said that anyone can break through that barrier if they put in the effort. Iharo been stuck at 20% for the past 2 weeks, and despite his motivation to get stronger, Ichikawa surpassed him so easily. He straight up hates himself for it. Ichikawa's still doing his damn best to keep number 9 at bay, but 9 dodges all the shots and gets all up close to Ichikawa, just to mess with him. Ichikawa may know some stuff about 9, but there's still a lot he doesn't know, and 9's gonna take full advantage of that. As the new finger bullets start flying, a cloud of dust gets kicked up. It looks like Ichikawa met his end, but thankfully, Iharo comes back just in time to save him. He's done feeling sorry for himself and getting saved, so he makes up his mind that he's gonna save Ichikawa this time. Though he's still got a damn hole in his chest, so he can't overdo it. Ichikawa can't wrap his head around why Iharo would come back here and put himself in harm's way. But damn if he hadn't, Ichikawa would be 6 feet under by now. And to top it off, number 9 straight up said his barrier keeps anything from leaving without his say-so. So there ain't no way Iharo could have made it out of here in the first place. They ain't got no other choice but to stick together and take down number 9. Even though Iharo ain't gonna be much help with his messed up injury, he says he'll do his damnedest to create an opening for Ichikawa. And once he does, Ichikawa hits 9 with all his might. They both agree on the plan, so Ichikawa charges forward while Iharo gets low and provides cover fire. The bullets they're firing are some special conductor type, so they work damn well in restraining 9. But since 9 sees Iharo as a major pain in the ass, he goes after him first. Iharo couldn't get up to dodge, but with a bit of extra focus, he's able to sense when the attack's coming and learns to dodge them too. While 9's still scratching his head about why he missed, Ihero manages to hit him in the leg with the conductor bullets, giving Ichikawa the perfect chance to get in position and unleash the full power of his suit. Ichikawa goes all out, unloading his whole damn magazine into 9. But when the dust settles, he's horrified to find out not a single bullet actually hit the mark. 9 built himself a damn wall of corpses for protection. And now that Ichikawa's run out of bullets, there ain't nothing he can do to stop 9 from turning him into Strainer with those finger bullets. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, Hoshina just got word that they lost communication with Ihero and Ichikawa, and their vital signs ain't showing up either, so there may be cause to worry. Kafka heard the report, and with the messed up behavior of the kaiju around here, he and Kikaru figured out that kaiju number 9 must be lurking nearby. After taking all the bullets, Ichikawa's body's burning with pain, but he's still fighting with all he's got, trying his damn hardest to stay conscious and keep on fighting. Number 9 straight up shocked that Ichikawa's still moving after taking all that damage, but since he wants a living test subject, he ain't looking to kill him outright. He is about to try other ways to take down Ichikawa, but Ihero ain't having none of that. He fires several bullets at 9 to protect his homie, but damn 9 had already seen that gun before, so deflecting the bullets is like child's play to him. And after taking out Ihero, he strolls back to Ichikawa, curious about how much damage it takes to stop him from moving. Ihero hates seeing his friend getting hurt right in front of him, and as much as he hates to admit it, Ichikawa got more talent than him. So as he reaches for his gun, he swears he won't let him die here. The problem is he outta ammo, so he ain't got much he can do to save Ichikawa. Ihero loses hope, accepting that he gonna die right here. But all he wants is for Ichikawa to somehow be saved. 9 turns his attention to Ihero, and since he already made Ichikawa stop moving, he don't need Ihero alive no more. He points his finger to finish him off. But just in the nick of time, Kafka pops up from behind and straight up punches 9's head clean off his body. Kafka kneels down next to Ichikawa and apologizes for being late. But Ichikawa blames himself for being so weak in the first place. He wanted to handle this on his own so Kafka wouldn't have to transform. But things didn't go as planned. Ihero already freaking out because from his perspective, now there's a second badass kaiju just showed up. But he can't do nothing about it. Turns out number 9 can stay alive even after getting decapitated. So as he picks his head back up, Kafka sets Ichikawa down because he knows things about to get violent. Ichikawa doesn't want Kafka getting into trouble, but Kafka says it's all good. Ichikawa just gotta focus on sealing his wounds with a suit so he don't bleed out. While he doing that, Kafka gonna deal with 9. Once 9 got his head back on his shoulders, he ain't even mad. He asks why Kafka attacked him out of nowhere when they both kaiju. But 9 realizes Kafka got some serious strength, so he wanna claim his corpse for himself. That's why he fires a shot at him. It doesn't do nearly as much damage as it did to Ichikawa, so 9 decides to step things up a notch if he wanna take down a kaiju of Kafka's caliber. 9 straight up unleashes a bunch of massive body bullets, ready to blast Kafka. But Kafka's even more pissed because 9 has been shooting Ichikawa and Ihero's soft human bodies with those damn bullets all this time. He can only imagine the pain and suffering they had to endure, so he's gonna make 9 pay for every single damn shot. 9 starts firing at Kafka, but Kafka just stands his ground, and right before getting hit, he unleashes a shock wave that blocks them all. In a split second, he flash steps right in front of 9 and starts wailing on him with a barrage of punches, while also rearranging 9's whole damn dental structure. 9 tries to fight back, but nothing he does can stop Kafka's relentless attacks. So he figures retreating is his best move, but Kafka ain't letting him off that easy. He gets ready to throw his final punch. 9 knows he's screwed at this point, and when he gets punched across 4 city blocks, he's left looking all messed up, disfigured, and dismembered with his core fully exposed. Kafka catches up to him, ready to smash that core and finish him off for good. But just then, a couple of Defense Force soldiers spot them and report that they ran into a humanoid kaiju. Meanwhile, Kikaru's struggling to take down one of the other kaiju from earlier because her gun ain't packing enough power. So she takes matters into her own hands and grabs a sign nearby, ready to use it as a weapon. And she straight up splits that damn kaiju in half. Now that she's done with that, she wonders where the hell Kafka went. Earlier, when they found out Ihero and Ichikawa went missing, Kafka decided to go look for them. But Kikaru questioned how the hell he's supposed to do that with zero way to communicate. Kafka explained that as long as they're getting attacked by the humanoid kaiju, he should be able to sense where they at. Then he transformed and bounced. But even if his intention was to save Ichikawa, transforming in the middle of an active defense force battle zone is some insanely risky shit. Word spreads about a humanoid kaiju, and Hoshina gets the memo. He wastes no time and starts moving to lend a hand. Meanwhile, with Kafka, he gets caught up dealing with the officers, which gives number 9 the chance to bounce back, regenerate his body, and escape imminent death. 9 claims he cracked the code on how Kafka's body works, so he thinking next time he'll straight up finish him off. But Kafka ain't having none of that. He ain't letting there be a next time, so he is ready to chase 9 down. But 9 starts blasting the defense force officers, so Kafka gotta switch gears and defend them. Seizing the opportunity, 9 pulls some crazy move and disintegrates himself to escape, which is something I think he can just do. And since 9 slipped away, Kafka figures it's a good time for him to dip too. He throws a punch to create a distraction, then jumps high in the sky to make his getaway. He's bummed he couldn't take 9 out for good, but at least he saved Ichikawa and Iharo from biting the dust. So he's feeling good about what he accomplished. Just when he thinks he in the clear, Vice Captain Hoshina creeps up behind him. Hoshina straight up believes Kafka's the one who messed up Ichikawa and Iharo, so he's mad as hell and ready to wreck Kafka. Before Kafka even blinks, Hoshina's right there in his face, almost slicing his head off. Kafka's forced to retreat, dodging Hoshina's strikes. Kafka remembers Hoshina talking about how he's a beast at taking down smaller kaiju, and damn, he wasn't lying. Kafka had only seen Hoshina smiling before, but when he's serious, he a whole different breed. Hoshina steps out of the alley, and he wants permission to unleash his suit's full power by removing the limiter, and he cranks it up to 92, dead set on taking out kaiju number 8. Kafka ain't looking to hurt Hoshina because he knows his fists are straight up lethal. But while he's still pondering, Hoshina slices him up in a flash, making it clear that he won't survive unless he gets real serious. Hoshina jumps in for another attack, but Kafka manages to dodge it this time by leaping back. But don't think he's escaped Hoshina's wrath just yet. As he's getting chased down, Kafka ain't able to toughen up his body quick enough to counter all of Hoshina's strikes. He might not be as buff as Kafka, but damn, he's way faster. Kafka used to think Kikaru was a badass when she moving on the battlefield. But right now, Hoshina doesn't even look human with the way he's darting around. He slashes again, and even though Kafka avoids a fatal blow, it still cuts deep and exposes his core. Kafka's trying to figure out what kind of move Hoshina pulled to slash him because he couldn't see it coming. So he finds a spot to stand his ground and regenerate his messed up body. This is the first time he's gotta regenerate his body, and damn, it drains a whole lot of his stamina. So he can't afford to get slashed like that again. Hoshina's still in hot on his pursuit, and he's been surprised the whole damn fight. He's throwing all his power, yet this kaiju keeps holding him back. That must mean this kaiju's at least a fortitude 8. But that ain't the only bizarre thing about it. The way this kaiju fights ain't normal, but it don't really matter because all he needs to do is make sure this kaiju can't counter his next attack. He powers up his blades, and once they're at full blast, he sends out an energy wave heading straight for Kafka. Kafka knows this is gonna be hellish, so he tries to jump out of the way, but still gets his leg cut off. And that moment of being stuck because of his missing leg is all Hoshina needs to close the gap and appear right under Kafka to finish him off. He goes for Kafka's core, but damn, he's surprised when he sees Kafka growing a set of teeth to grab his blade and stop it from piercing his core. Now he can't even pull that blade out. So Kafka takes the chance to strike back and powers up one of his mega punches. But since he still ain't looking to kill Hoshina, he aims for the knife instead and sends him flying with the force of the punch. And once Hoshina loses sight of him because of all the dust kicked up, Kafka disappears into the night. Hoshina's feeling down because he couldn't bring down kaiju number 8 just now, but he still gotta report what went down. So he grabs the radio and gives Mina the lowdown on the situation. Meanwhile, Kikaru's deep in thought about Kafka. He might have saved her ass during the exam, but can she really trust him when he's a kaiju? Just then, Kafka shows up after reverting back to his human form, and Kikaru's true feelings for him are written all over her excited face. Kafka apologizes for acting so reckless because he knows she must have been worried sick. He's running low on energy after all that regenerating he had to do to recover from the fight with Hoshina. So he nearly collapses and Kikaru's gotta hold him up. Kafka says sorry for not finishing off kaiju number 9. But Kikaru tells him it's all good because she plans on getting her revenge personally and taking it out with her own 2 hands. Kafka gives her a smile, but then he starts walking away even though he's in a terrible state. He says he wants to head to Ichikawa and Iharo because they got banged up real bad. but Kikaru grabs him and asks if he's got a medical degree to help them out. They're already being taken care of by the defense force, and with the new medical tech they've got, Ichikawa and Ihiro should be back on their feet in no time. Kafka should be worrying about himself because not only did he get spotted by some officers, but he also went head-to-head with Vice Captain Hoshina. If he ain't careful, it's only a matter of time before he gets busted. While everyone's finishing off the last of their targets and getting ready to head home, Hoshina's deep in thought about his encounter with Kaiju number 8. Mina comes up to him because it's rare to see him so down, so she decides to take a picture to remember this rare moment. She then asked Hoshina if number 8 was really that strong, and he confirmed it, stating that it was one of the strongest out there. If that's the real deal, then number 8 is like some crazy anomaly because we haven't seen a kaiju that's strong in the past 5 years. It's lucky as hell that it hasn't caused any casualties yet. It doesn't seem like the type to just randomly attack people, and that's exactly why Hoshina found their fight so damn weird. It had the chance to throw down a punch, but it decided to go for the knife instead. And the whole damn brawl felt more like Hoshina was fighting with a regular human, not a damn kaiju. Mina tells Hoshina to take a damn break because he must be worn the hell out from the fight. She'll handle things from here, and when it comes to number 8, it doesn't matter what kind of kaiju it is or how it acted all strange. Their job is to neutralize any damn kaiju that comes their way. Right then, Hoshina and Mina get a report from one of the platoon leaders. They just finished talking to Ichikawa and Ihiro. Turns out the kaiju that messed them up is the same one from the exam. And on top of that, when they first found it, it was in a damn human form. At the same time, kaiju number 9 is back in human form too, strolling down the road when a car rolls up behind him. The dude in the car just trying to get home from work, so he wants this guy standing in the middle of the street to get the hell out of his way. 9 raises his finger, like he's about to blast this annoying human with his finger bullets. But then he changes his mind and walks past him instead. The guy in the car starts freaking the hell out, and things go from bad to worse because when he turns around, he sees 9 transforming to make his head all huge, and then the dude gets straight up eaten alive. A while later, 9 transforms into the man and cruises away in the car while listening to the news. And his next move on the agenda is to find a damn way to kill Kafka. Back at the hospital, Ichikawa finally wakes up and sees Kafka and Kikaru chilling by his bedside. They're stoked as hell to see Ichikawa's alright, and Ichikawa thanks Kafka for saving his ass back there. But based on the looks Kafka and Kikaru give him, he probably shouldn't have said that. Ichikawa didn't even realize Ihiro was in the damn room. So now he's wondering why Kafka's getting all the thanks when it was kaiju number 8 that saved their asses. Kikaru thinks quickly and plays it off like Ichikawa is thanking Kafka for spotting the reproductive organs of the kaiju, because that was a massive help in the damn battle. And it kinda makes sense, so Ihiro buys into it. Though he's still curious why the hell a kaiju would save humans in the first place. That thing straight up wiped out number 9 in like no time. So even for a kaiju, Ihiro thinks that's pretty damn cool. But he can't figure out why Kafka's blushing after hearing him say that. Once Ichikawa and Ihiro finally get discharged from the hospital, they're freaking shocked to find out the whole damn team threw them a surprise party. The party's to celebrate everyone's first successful mission, so they all waited for the two of them to come back so they could be a part of it. And now that everyone's here, Kafka shouts to kick off the damn party, but he wasn't expecting what went down next. They whip out the finest A6 Wagyu beef in the whole damn world. It's because the chef ain't serving nothing less for someone like Izumo. Izumo starts complaining because he remembers telling the chef not to go overboard. But the chef reassures him that he won't be charged extra for it. This whole situation's got Kafka wondering who the hell Izumo is, and Kikaru's straight up shocked that Kafka never bothered to Google him. This dude is the heir to Izumo Technologies, the biggest anti-kaiju weapons manufacturer in the whole damn country. And they're the ones who made the suits all the defense force soldiers wear. So he's probably the richest mofo in Japan right now. Hoshina steps up and addresses everyone at the party, telling them that it's rare as hell for him to be off like this, so they better enjoy themselves to the freaking max. The party gets rolling and it's going damn great, so Ichikawa thanks Hoshina for being cool enough to make it happen. But Hoshina didn't set up the party just out of kindness. He's waiting to see something else. And before long, the show kicks off as people start arguing. Kikaru calls out Ihiro for being too focused on showing off to Ichikawa, but Ihiro ain't trying to hear that from her because she does nothing but show off during battles. And it ain't just them. Everywhere Ichikawa looks, people be straight up arguing about every little damn thing that went down on the mission. But it ain't all bad. They're just trying to communicate and figure out how to step up their game for the next time. But that doesn't mean there ain't gonna be some good old regular arguments too. Meanwhile, out in the hallway, Izumo's chatting it up with Chef Dajima. He's expressing how damn happy he was when Izuma called him up. Dude thought he'd never see him again after what went down last time. He asks Izumo about his dad, and their relationship ain't changed much since Izumo still ain't talking to his old man after some incident they had. Just then, Kaguragi shows up, and you can tell he heard every damn word. But he knows it's a private matter, so he just keeps on walking to the bathroom. Back inside, Hoshina's finally calmed the chaos and drops a bombshell. He announces that Kafka's getting recognized for his help in the last mission. His info on the kaiju saved a whole bunch of lives, so he's officially getting promoted to a full member of the defense force. Everyone's going wild celebrating Kafka's achievements. And the next day, Kafka's getting officially inducted by Mina. He's stoked, but he also wants to be careful not to speak out of turn like last time, so he awkwardly excuses himself. But as he's leaving, Mina reminds him that he still has a long way to go before he can stand by her side, showing that she still remembers the promise they made. Kafka's all pumped and tells her he won't let her down, but damn, that counts as speaking out of turn, so she makes him do 50 push-ups. She's got a meeting about the kaiju number 8 and 9 appearances, so Kafka will have to ask Hoshina about the paperwork for his new officer status. She also lets him know that Hoshina was the one who put in a good word for him, so he better live up to the man's expectations. It's late as hell and Kafka's still grinding away, studying like he always does. But he knows he gotta call it quits before Hoshina comes in and starts scolding him for skipping on sleep. So he decides to call it a night and bounce. But as he's leaving the room, he peeps that the lights are still on in the training area. Curiosity gets the best of him, so he goes to check it out. And that's when he spots Hoshina deep in his training routine. Hoshina's on some mental imagery training tip, visualizing the battle from earlier that day. He's trying to figure out how he could have landed better attacks, and he's dead serious about it. It kinda freaks Kafka out, and he ends up taking a tumble. Finally, Hoshina notices him and starts ragging on Kafka for staying up so damn late again. Kafka asks Hoshina why he is training late as well. So Hoshina then explains that he needs to make damn sure he's ready to take down kaiju number 8 next time they cross paths. He's been replaying the fight in his mind and realized he messed up right from the start. If he had gone all out from the beginning, he could have won. Regular officers couldn't handle a beast as strong as 8 or 9. So Hoshina's gotta be the one to step up and handle it. Kafka sees how hard Hoshina's working to protect everyone, so he makes a promise. He's gonna try his best to live up to Hoshina's expectations. But Hoshina ain't buying it and puts Kafka in a headlock, calling him out for talking big when his combat power's still at a measly 1%. But if Kafka wants to help so badly, Hoshina's cool with him just living up to 1% of his expectations for now. Hoshina's done with his training for the night and he's heading back to the main office, and he tells Kafka to make sure he hits the bed soon. But up in the sky, shit's getting real. There's danger lurking as a new humanoid kaiju's gearing up for an attack with his crew of aerial kaiju. A while later, Hoshina's thinking about how kaiju number 8 moves like a freaking human. And then there's kaiju number 9, who can straight up talk and disguise itself as a human. Hoshina's getting real worried because some weird shit's going down with the kaiju. Meanwhile, Kafka's thinking about what Hoshina told him, deciding he can't let him down. Kafka heads to bed, but damn, he's mind blown when he sees fire raining down from the sky. The whole base is getting wrecked by a crazy amount of fireballs, and Kafka's crew wakes up to see the place in chaos. Konomi tells Hoshina they're seeing a ton of kaiju inside the base. These monsters are straight up attacking them from the air, and each one of them's got a fortitude rating over 6. But the scariest part, they're all Hanju. On the ground, one of these beasts is tearing the base apart with a crazy powerful attack. Since Mina ain't around, Hoshina steps up and takes command. He tells all hands to lure as many kaiju as possible into the training area and make sure none of them escape the base. They ain't hearing any reports of damage outside the base, so Hoshina's wondering if the kaiju are after the base itself. Kafka's straight up horrified seeing the base on fire, and he knows those wyvern-type kaiju are some serious bad news. But then he stops and realizes that if they're wyvern-type, something's definitely off. Elsewhere, Hoshina gathers up all the folks with rifles and tells them to head to the center of the base. They're gonna lure the kaiju and shoot them down. Right then, Kafka fills Hoshina in on the fact that they usually only see about a dozen wyvern-type kaiju in a whole year. And one thing's always been consistent, they always show up alone. Hoshina figures if they're rolling in as a group this time, it means something's making them put aside their pride and act with a goal in mind. He's predicting they got a badass leader. And just like that, this leader appears in front of Hoshina, saying its target's been spotted. So Hoshina tells Kafka he's hanging up now. The leader straight up demands to know if Hoshina is the baddest human at the base. But Hoshina's just shocked it can talk. Mina ain't around, so Hoshina claims he's the strongest, and the leader decides Hoshina's his prey. Right then, Konomi drops the bomb that this leader is a Daikeiju class with a fortitude of 8-3. Hoshina tells his right hand to handle the other kaiju fight so he can focus, but he's gotta quickly dodge an attack from the Daikeiju. The monster's impressed, saying Hoshina passes, before unleashing another insane attack. Hoshina dodges it once again, which only makes the Daikeiju even more pleased. It decides it's time to start the annihilation, and its scream gets all the other kaiju to scream too. Hoshina realizes they're reacting to his battle cry, confirming they're after the base. Just then, he's gotta dodge another attack and notices how the monster's punches hit like a freaking meteor strike. He knows if he gets hit, it's game over, so he keeps dodging its attacks. He manages to land a hit, but damn, the beast's skin is even tougher than kaiju number 8. Meanwhile, the others are struggling to fight the kaiju. They can't do any damage, and they're mind blown when Kafka tells them to stop attacking them from the front and hit them from behind. See, those wyvern types are easy targets from the front when they're flying, so they got thicker skin there, but the skin on their backs is thin as hell to keep their weight down, and the cores near the back too. The others are impressed by Kafka's knowledge, so they switch up their formation to target the backs of the kaiju. Izumo and Kaguragi team up to take on one of these beasts, and Kaguragi acts as a distraction. Izumo unleashes his full combat power to launch an attack, but he's gotta dodge quick when another kaiju swoops in to attack him. This shit's terrifying because these kaiju are working together and watching each other's backs. No one knows what to do, so they're all shocked when Kikaru says there's another way. Just then, Kikaru comes zooming in at lightning speed and starts wrecking the kaiju. She busts out a new weapon and straight up declares that her plan is to unleash her unstoppable power and smash through their front armor. Turns out, back at the base's underground weapon stash, Kikaru was straight up shocked to find out they made a custom weapon just for her. Usually, you gotta be a captain to get one, but they made an exception for Kikaru. The kaiju threat level's been going up, and Kikaru ranks as the 3rd strongest officer on the base. So now they treat her like a key player. Mina announces that Kikaru's officially the 3rd strongest weapon after the captain and vice captain. Her job is to wipe out those kaiju. Back in the present, Kikaru can tell this weapon packs a mean punch. The only downside is, it's ugly as hell and doesn't really match her style. Everyone's jaw drops seeing the damage she's causing, and she declares that this kaiju's about to meet its end. Kikaru dodges its attack and reveals her weapon was made from a uni-organ taken from a neutralized Hanju 2 years back. Hoshina told her that when she pulls the trigger and powers it up, it releases shockwaves. Kikaru uses it to speed up and unleashes her first move to crush the kaiju. But then out of nowhere another kaiju shows up, so she hits it with another shockwave, this time causing massive damage. The dudes watch in awe and think the weapon suits her perfectly. Then a kaiju pops up in the sky, but Kikaru's shocked when it gets hit by some freeze rounds. It's Ichikawa, and Kikaru's impressed that he can throw down like that against such tough kaiju. Ichikawa keeps blasting rounds at the kaiju, and Kikaru finishes it off. Kikaru lets Ichikawa join in on the action, but only if he can keep up. And Ichikawa's like, hell yeah, I got this. Izumo and Kaguragi ain't gonna be left behind either, so they decide to strike the enemy from behind while Kikaru's got them distracted. Hoshina's stoked to hear Kikaru's holding it down, but he's got a major issue with the leader. This thing's speed and power are off the charts, and what's even scarier is that Hoshina can tell the Daikeiju's straight up enjoying the fight. Kaiju ain't supposed to feel emotions like that. Hoshina makes his way to gate 3, but he gets pissed when the beast straight up wrecks it. Then out of nowhere the beast vanishes, leaving Hoshina shocked. This freaky monster explains that most kaiju can't put up a fight like Hoshina did, so it's looking forward to devouring him and getting even stronger. The leader sends Hoshina flying, but even acknowledges Hoshina's strength because he managed to slice his arm off. Right then, Hoshina apologizes to Konomi because he's deciding to skip the usual procedure. Now that they're on the training grounds, he don't gotta worry about hurting the officers, so he's going all out. Hoshina unleashes 92% of his combat power and declares it's time to neutralize this Daikeiju. Somewhere else, this girl finds herself in deep trouble. Kafka's nearby, but he won't make it in time, so he transforms just his legs to save her. She's shocked to be rescued by Kafka and assumes he's mastered his suit. He just goes with it, but then the beast gets ready to attack them. Luckily, Kikaru and Ichikawa swoop in and save the day. Kikaru tells them to get the injured to safety. Ichikawa then talks directly to Kafka and tells him not to take any crazy risks. He reminds Kafka that he's a full officer now and he needs to believe in his fellow officers. Kafka gets it and watches in awe as they fight. They team up against the kaiju, and Kafka can't help but wonder when they learn such sick teamwork. Just then, Konomi announces that other units have arrived to help. Kafka's hyped because it means the senior officers who were off duty have finally shown up. The platoon starts cooking up a plan to work together, and things start looking more hopeful. They're pushing back even without Mina being there. Kafka goes to help the wounded and thinks about how freaking amazing his 3rd division is. Nearby, Hoshina tells the leader they messed with the wrong crew and he's damn sure they're gonna win. The two start throwing down again, and the Daikeiju figures something out. Hoshina's been slicing right through the tiny gaps in his exoskeleton. But damn, he's bummed because it ain't fun no more. Now that Hoshina's strategy's exposed, it's easy for the Daikeiju to shut those openings down. Out of nowhere though, Hoshina still manages to slice the beast to pieces. The leader realizes Hoshina was just messing with his head, aiming for the gaps as a diversion. Hoshina tears the leader apart, but then he's the one who's shocked when the monster gets even more hyped. This is the kind of fight it lives for, and it starts regenerating. The beast stoked to be fighting someone who matches its own power, but once again, it's caught off guard when Hoshina slices it up enough to expose its core. Hoshina busts out another 6-sword technique, and everyone's celebrating, thinking the fight's done. But hold up, Konomi notices something strange, and Hoshina yells that it ain't over. Meanwhile, Kafka's feeling mad pain nearby, wondering why his detection ability's going off even though he ain't transformed. Kafka's scared shitless, thinking the worst and worrying about Hoshina. Konomi's just as terrified, and Hoshina watches as the Daikeiju starts transforming into something way bigger. He realizes the core's position must have changed, so he couldn't fully destroy it. The Daikeiju lets out ultra-high temperature steam, and Hoshina's glad he brought it to the training ground. Right then, Konomi announces that the Daikeiju's fortitude is rising, and she can't believe the damn number. The beast finishes its transformation, and she declares its fortitude's now at 9. Hoshina's freaked out seeing what it's become, and the Daikeiju lets out a freaking monstrous roar. Daikeiju is done blowing up to epic proportions, and poor Hoshina be straight up screwed because he ain't in his element no more. Daikeiju's transformation even got Kafka feeling some kind of way, and he knows something ain't right. So Kafka starts hauling ass toward Hoshina and Daikeiju's epic beatdown. Daikeiju is trying to squish Hoshina like a bug, but my man dodges that mess and starts hauling ass along Daikeiju's arm, slashing like crazy. Hoshina is giving it his all, but the blades of his can't cut through that massive size difference. This is why he always hates taking on these gigantic kaichis, but now he's stuck in this mess. He gotta rely on his speed to avoid getting wrecked and strike Daikeiju's core whenever he got a shot. But out of nowhere, Hoshina is feeling this agonizing pain shoot through his body because he's pushing himself too damn hard. It's been 10 minutes since he maximum output, so Konomi is begging him to shut it down before he messes himself up really bad. But in the heat of battle, Hoshina ain't got the luxury to hold back. With his body on the brink, he knows he got maybe a minute left before he's a goner. So he trying to make the most of it, sneaking up on Daikeiju by using a nearby building. But damn, when Hoshina leaps in the air to attack, he's straight up shocked to find out Daikeiju got eyes in the back of his damn head. The giant sees Hoshina coming and close lines his ass out of the freaking sky, sending him flying across the city. That last hit drained every last ounce of strength from Hoshina, shutting down his max output and taking him on a trip down memory lane. Back when Hoshina was just a young blood, his old man used to worship him for being a blade-wielding genius. If he was born 200 years ago, he would have been a freaking legend. But times done changed, and swords ain't the weapon of choice no more. Back to the present. Konomi is losing her damn mind, shouting for Hoshina to check if he's still kicking. He lifts his head and tells her not to trip because he's still breathing. His shields be maxed out, barely keeping his sorry ass in one piece. He may have made it through, but he running out of ideas. Every damn thing he tried so far been a bust. He asks Konomi for an update on how the rest of the crew holding up. She fills him in. Civilians are almost out of the danger zone, and the wyverns are dropping like flies. Hoshina is stoked to hear everyone holding it down, so he decides to keep giving it his all, even if it means kicking the bucket. Konomi be all up in his face, begging him to chill, but my man ain't having it. He leaps his ass into the air and slashes at Daikeiju. but that cut be healing up in a flash. Now Daikeju knows for sure Hoshina ain't got no chance in hell of taking him down. So what does Daikeju do? He sends a freaking exploding wyvern after him, and Hoshina gets blasted back into another memory trip. His pops straight up told him to give up his dream of joining the defense force because sword skills won't cut it against the kaiju. Folks been telling him for ages that his blade skills are useless against the kaiju. But then Mina comes along and flips the script. Instead of ragging on him, she asks Hoshina to join her squad because he's exactly the type of person she needs. She can't swing a blade for shit, so she wants Hoshina by her side to clear a path when she gotta take aim and blast her targets. Mina left him holding it down at the base while she out doing her thing. Hoshina ain't letting that place go down, no matter the cost. So he keeps slashing away at Daikeju, throwing every damn attack he knows at him. But he gets caught by that bastard Daikeju and about to be squashed like a bug. Kafka peeped this going down, so he starts hauling ass to help, ready to transform and save Hoshina's sorry ass. But right before he can do his superhero thing, he hears Mina's voice over the comms, Hoshina feeling relieved because he knows victory is right around the corner. And in that same damn moment, Daikeju gets blasted and loses an arm. Mina is up on a nearby roof rocking her railgun, and she ain't playing around. She blasts Daikeju's other arm before bouncing to avoid getting hit back. Daikeju still be regenerating like crazy, so Konomi tells Mina his core gotta be somewhere on his back. Mina getting ready to take aim again. Hoshina was beaten up, but he still got some fight in him. He is dead set on doing whatever the hell he can even with his busted up body to make sure Mina gets a clear shot. He revs up his suit again, taking it to 63% power so he can slash Daikeju's legs and thighs, slowing his ass down. But Konomi is freaking out, saying he already maxed out that suit, and going any further could mess him up real bad. Hoshina knows damn well the risks he's taking with his moves, but even with his desperate charge, Daikeju can heal up all the damage in a split second. Hoshina ain't dealing enough damage to keep that beast immobilized. His power output is weak as hell, and he's clueless about how to bring Daikeju down with the explosive force he needs. But out of the blue, Kikuru jumps in, swinging her axe, trying to lend a hand to Hoshina. But even with her insane strength, she's still too damn weak to even make a scratch on Daikeju's tough exoskeleton. She may not be able to solo Daikeju, but her presence sparks an idea in Hoshina's mind. So he tells her to keep on attacking and follow his lead, so she can slice into the wounds he creates when he goes for Daikeju. Kikuru's down with a plan, so the two of them team up and put their plan into action. Hoshina slashes open Daikeju's shell, while Kikuru delivers a massive blow to the exposed flesh. The attack seems to hit Daikeju hard because he screams out in pain and drops to his knees. They successfully immobilized him, at least for now. But all the strain Kikuru put on her body finally catches up to her, and she reaches her limit and passes out. Hoshina realizes Kikuru's out of commission for the time being, but he ain't sweating it because they already bought enough time for Mina to get in position for a killer shot. So she unleashes a powerful blast, blowing Daikeju's back to bits and exposing his core. With the core out in the open, Mina's ready to finish Daikeju once and for all, but Konomi warns her that she's got just one bullet left, so she better make it count. The whole defense force covers Mina's back, so she can focus solely on aiming like a boss. With the combined strength of the defense force and Hoshina pushing himself to the limit to deal damage, Daikeju gets all distracted, giving Mina the perfect shot lined up. Daikeju's core gets blasted to pieces, and chunks of his body go flying everywhere. It looks like the battle's finally done, and everyone starts going wild, celebrating their epic victory. Kafka's overwhelmed with emotion seeing how damn hard everyone worked and how badass they looked while doing it. It fuels his motivation to get stronger, so he can stand by Mina's side in battle someday. Ichikawa cracks a joke about Kafka's messed up face, and Kafka feels like that's too damn harsh. But then Ichikawa tells him he feels the same way about wanting to get stronger, so they should team up and work towards their goals together. Meanwhile, Kikuru, Hoshina, and Mina are talking, and Hoshina tells Kikuru that he and Mina got the rest of the wyverns covered. But hold up, Mina says Hoshina needs to take a damn break too. Actually, the same goes for her because she's pushing her limits after taking that last shot. So the squad commanders ask her to leave the stragglers for them to handle. As they start making plans for cleaning up, Mina's tiger senses something ain't right, and a moment later, they all see something straight up terrifying. They look up in the sky, and there's this huge ass mass floating up there, and it's made up entirely of wyverns that done turned themselves into bombs. The more wyverns join that mass, the more powerful the bomb gets. So if that thing blows, it's gonna be like a freaking nuke. Some of the officers start shooting at it, trying to bring it down. But that's way too risky since it could lead to the whole thing blowing up immediately. Mina gives the order to evacuate, but ain't no way they got time for that with the bomb's blast radius. Then Hoshina gets called out by the barely conscious head of Daikeiju, and he mocks them, saying it's a draw because even if they destroy his core, he's taking them all down with him. Mina's stuck, not knowing what to do because she's out of bullets. But just then she sees Kafka running past her, and Ichikawa already knows what Kafka's up to, so he begs him to stop. But Kafka keeps going, so Hoshina tries to stop him because he still thinks Kafka's a weakling who can't help at all. But when he chases after him, he realizes Kafka's moving like a damn track star. There ain't no way he should be able to do that with just 1% suit power. Kafka starts transforming as he runs, and once he's fully changed, everyone's completely shocked. Konomi starts picking up readings of a new kaiju on the battlefield, and this bad boy is rocking a fortitude of 9.8. Ain't no damn doubt about it, because everyone's straight up sure that the beast in front of them is kaiju number 8. Hoshina always had a feeling something was off about Kafka since day one, but he ended up liking him so damn much that he never even thought Kafka could be kaiju number 8. Kafka be apologizing deep down to Hoshina for playing him all this time and letting him down. He says sorry to Kikaru too for blowing his own cover, even after making her promise to keep his secret locked up. He also apologizes to Ichikawa for taking these crazy risks. But he ain't got no other choice if he wants to save everyone. They all put their lives on the line and fought their asses off today, so he can't be the only one putting his safety above everyone else's lives. Then he kicks in his booster jets, which he just figured out he had, and he takes off into the damn sky, heading straight for that kaiju nuke. He throws a punch so damn hard that it sends the sucker flying into freaking orbit. Kafka falls back to the ground, and Mina hollers at everyone to crank their shields to max power before the bomb pops off. The explosion ain't as gnarly because Kafka sent it flying high as hell, but it still messes things up. So Kafka uses his energy to shield the officers. Once things settle down, he accepts that he's gonna be in a world of hurt now that his secret's out. And next thing we know, Mina's got him at gunpoint, saying she's taking his ass into custody. After they nabbed Kafka, they called for a damn board meeting to figure out their next move. But nobody saw it coming that there was a fricking kaiju hiding right among them. And not just any kaiju, but a beast like Kafka. So the deputy director thinks they need to handle him right away. But they gotta keep it on the down low because if the media finds out, it'll cause mass panic and shit. Word on the street is that some other country is experimenting with kaiju to human muscle transplants. And if they catch wind of Kafka, you know they're gonna try to snatch him for themselves. One of the board members suggests offing Kafka in secret and turning his dead ass into a weapon, but then someone else throws out the idea of using Kafka as a living kaiju weapon. They all hem and haw, not knowing what the hell to do with Kafka. That's when the big boss, Director General Shinomiya, steps up and says he'll make the call after meeting Kafka face to face. Meanwhile, Kafka's chilling in his cell, all peaceful and shit. His guards can't believe a guy like him could really be a kaiju. It's been a whole damn day since Kafka got caught, and he's wondering what the hell they're gonna do to him. He remembers Kikaru mentioning how the defense force turns powerful ass kaiju into these crazy weapons called numbers. So considering Kafka's strength, it's likely they're gonna turn him into a weapon now that they got their hands on him. It's frustrating as hell for Kafka to be losing his life like this, especially after he finally got close to Mina again. He knows she gotta be pissed at him. Just then, Mina walks in to transport Kafka to headquarters. But when Kafka tries to say something, Hoshina shuts him up. As they lead him away, he understands why both of them would be mad at him for keeping that secret. And when they get outside, Kafka peeps all the 3rd Division members lined up as security. Not a single one of them says a damn word to him, and he can't even bring himself to look at them because he feels like he straight up betrayed them. But right before they seal his ass in the back of the truck, Ichikawa speaks up and tells Kafka that he still believes in him. Damn, Kafka's hella surprised because he thought Ichikawa would never talk to him again. But then Mina flips the switch and tells him there ain't no cameras in the room, so she can talk to him straight up. She was shocked as hell when she saw Kafka transform into a kaiju. But she knows deep down that the way he rushed out to save everyone is just the kind of shit Kafka would do. So she still trusts him with no doubt. Mina's been hustling to gather evidence and testimonies to help Kafka's case. If they can prove he's still human inside, maybe they can spare his ass. And it's not just her personal opinion, because everyone in the 3rd Division still sees him as a friend. But for now, she gotta follow the damn rules. So she asks Kafka to take a seat while she spills about where they taking him. In the middle of her spiel, Kafka cuts her off and asks if he still has the right to stand by her side. And Mina flashes a smile and tells him she'll always be waiting for him. The trucks start rolling out toward headquarters, and as they leave, Hoshina tells the 3rd Division to show some respect for Kafka with a salute. But since the deputy director's watching and ain't down with Kafka, he plays it off like it's a salute for Mina instead. At the Defense Force headquarters, they lock Kafka up in some secure facility and just leave his ass there. Several days pass, and back at the 3rd Division, they all feel like shit because they lost Kafka. Ihiro still can't wrap his head around Kafka being Kaiju number 8, and Ichikawa seems to be taking the Kafka situation real hard. One chick on the team talks about how Kafka saved her life in battle and how badass he was at finding the weak spots of the Kaiju. Plus, he's a blast to hang out with, so they all wish he'd come back alive. Then Kaguragi steps up and says it ain't their call to make. If word got out that a human turned into a Kaiju, it'd freak the whole world out. Nobody'd know if the person standing next to them was a damn Kaiju or not. Meanwhile, Mina calls Konomi into her office to ask her for a favor. She wants Konomi to put together all the footage they got of Kafka being a kick-ass Defense Force member, and she needs it done fast before Kafka gets executed or some shit. Hoshina's out there overseeing base reconstruction, and when asked what he thinks about Kafka's situation, he just says he needs Kafka to get his ass back pronto so they can have a rematch. He knows he wasn't taking that fight seriously when Hoshina caught him as Kaiju number 8, so he's gonna make sure they can have a fair fight when Kafka returns. Meanwhile, Kikuru's posted up outside the general's office, getting ready to have a talk with her old man. She knocks on the door and gets the green light to come in. She addresses her pops by his rank and pleads for Kafka's life. She brings up the fact that Kafka straight up saved her ass before, but Shinomiya just sees it as her own failure for needing to be saved. Plus, he just got some x-rays done on Kafka, and the thing in his chest ain't no heart, it's a freaking Kaiju core. And that leads him to the conclusion that Kafka ain't nothing but a damn Kaiju. He ain't letting any of those bastards live after they took out Kikuru's mom. Then he tells Kikuru to bounce from his office because no matter what she says, he ain't changing his mind. But before she dips, she lets him know she still believes in Kafka. Meanwhile, Kafka's stuck in his cell when a bunch of scientists rolls in to run some physical tests on him. But even when Kafka tries to spark up a convo, they straight up ignore him. He's left with nothing but his own thoughts about his crew back in the 3rd Division and how he gotta find a way to get back to them. Back at the 3rd Division, everyone's straight up shocked when they hear they're getting reassigned to other divisions. Mina steps up and explains it's just a temporary move. Their current base got wrecked like 75% destroyed, so it ain't a solid spot for operations no more. And with all these new Kaiju showing up, including number 9 and Daikeiju, who's now called number 10, headquarters is getting worried that these Kaiju might be plotting something major. They gotta stay ready. So they're gonna take the most talented rookies and spread them out across different divisions. Ihiro ain't buying it and thinks headquarters is trying to split up all the officers who knew Kafka. But Mina assures him it's been in the works for months and got nothing to do with Kafka. Even with that said, the others ain't too thrilled about leaving the 3rd Division. But after a moment of thinking, Ichikawa decides to go along with it. Later that day, Izumo is up on the roof, thinking about hitting up his old man for help with Kafka. But just then, Kaguragi rolls up, talking on the phone with one of his old homies. When he hangs up, he realizes Izumo heard him, so he plops down and says that he was talking to his former military commander, trying to see if there's anything he can do to help Kafka. Izumo's caught off guard because Kaguragi ain't the type to ask for favors like that, but he's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure Kafka don't end up 6 feet under. And Izumo's on board with that. Back to Kafka. He's dead set on proving he's still a human, so he can bounce out of here alive and rejoin the crew. But then the vault doors swing open, and Shinomiya himself shows up. Kikuru's watching from the observation room, and she's bug-eyed when she hears her old man ask for Kafka's restraints to be removed. The operators ain't feeling it, but if Kafka's really as strong as they say, he can bust out on his own. He's just sitting there because he wants to. Kafka gets set free, feeling hopeful that Shinomiya might actually give him a listen. But then General Shinomiya pulls out a damn gun and starts popping shots at him. Kafka blocks the bullets, but then Shinomiya gets in close and tears a chunk out of Kafka's gut. He makes it crystal clear he doesn't trust Kafka and doesn't see him as human. So he calls for his weapons to be brought out. ready to do what he came here to do. Wipe out Kaiju number 8. The locks on Shinomiya's weapons get released, and Kafka ain't got a clue what the hell those gauntlets are. But he knows they ain't gonna be kind to him. As Shinomiya slips them on, they sync up with his suit. He tells Kafka that if he wants to claim he's human, he better die looking like one. Kafka knows he's gotta throw down, but he plans to keep his cool and not fully transform to prove he's human. But in the blink of an eye, he feels a bone-chilling amount of pressure and has to dodge by jumping in the air. Still, he loses an arm to Shinomiya in the process. And Shinomiya ain't done yet. He sets his sights on Kafka once more and blasts him out of the sky. In the observation room, the other generals give props to Shinomiya, saying he's still crazy strong for his age, but no one's surprised because Shinomiya used to be the Defense Force's strongest soldier they ever had. After Kafka crashes back down, we see he had to transform more of his body to survive the hit from Shinomiya's weapon. But the dude ain't got no time to chill because Shinomiya's right back on his ass. So Kafka bolts away like lightning. His plan is to keep on sprinting while dodging Shinomiya's attacks, hoping that his suit will overheat eventually. But Shinomiya catches up to him eventually, and with one solid punch, he straight up obliterates Kafka's arm. Kafka regenerates his arm, but Shinomiya keeps bringing the heat, closing in on him again and slamming him into a damn wall with another punch. Kafka's knocked out for a second, but he wakes up just in time to dodge Shinomiya's follow-up attack. He's wondering why his kaiju senses are going crazy. It's the same feeling he had when he fought 9. So he realizes Shinomiya must be using weapons made from a powerful kaiju. The weapons Shinomiya's rocking are made from the remains of Kaiju number 2, the beast that damn near wrecked Sapporo back in 72. It had insane destructive power and refused to give up till it bit the dust. So with weapons made from a monster like that, and Shinomiya being the only dude who can wield them, he's straight up untouchable. Kafka doesn't want to catch another one of the bone-crushing punches, so he tries to dodge again, but he can't move because Shinomiya already wrecked both his legs before he even realized it. Now Shinomiya's got a clear shot and lands another punch that should be the end for Kafka. But when the dust settles this time, we see Kafka manage to block it by fully transforming. But Kikuru senses something ain't right about him, and she seems to be right as Kafka lets out a bone-chilling screech that rattles the whole damn vault. Inside Kafka's head, he's completely paralyzed, losing control of his body, and the kaiju instincts have taken over. He was trying to prove to Shinomiya he's human, but now he's practically the same as a real kaiju. That monster that started it all appears next to Kafka, telling him to go and kill humans. With zero control over his kaiju body, Kaiju number 8 charges straight for Shinomiya with one goal in mind, and it's murder. While all this is going down, Ichikawa's pushing himself hard with his workout, so Iharo tells him to chill and take a break. Iharo also asks Ichikawa what the hell he was thinking when he agreed to switch units. Ichikawa responds saying he wants to get stronger. Iharo tells him he could still get strong if he stayed in their unit, and that might be true, but Ichikawa wants to get stronger as fast as freaking possible. He wants to be the one protecting Kafka next time instead of always needing protection. Iharo asks if Ichikawa really believes Kafka's gonna make it back to them, but he ain't just believing it. He knows it for a fact, and when Kafka returns, he doesn't want to regret his own weakness no more. After hearing Ichikawa's reasons, Iharo gets this sudden urge to train hard too so he don't fall behind. But before they can do anything, they get interrupted by the platoon leaders. They know today's the day headquarters decides what to do with Kafka, so it's gotta be hard to stay focused right now. But they assure Ichikawa and Iharo that things will probably be alright. They all sent letters asking for Kafka to be spared, and Mina got summoned too. So there's gotta be some good news. Meanwhile, Mina gets to the Defense Force headquarters and they tell her director Isao Shinomiya is testing Kafka right now. So she gotta wait in the damn meeting room until he's done. But she ain't got a high enough rank to sit, so they tell her to just stand next to the table. At the same time, the fight between Isao and Kafka is still going on, and as Kafka charges at him, he throws a jet-powered punch straight at Isao. But Isao dodges it and says Kafka's hella fast, but still predictable. Turns out, Isao was dead wrong about Kafka being predictable, because Kafka twists his damn spine backwards and lands a second punch right after, and Isao has to block it. He didn't expect Kafka to mess up his own body just to attack. So now he realizes he gotta be extra careful. Kafka's still trying to control his kaiju body from attacking Isao, but it ain't working. His body unleashes a barrage of punches and slams Isao into the ground. Isao manages to escape by kicking Kafka's leg. But if it weren't for the badass shields of the number 2 gauntlet, he would have been dead from that attack in an instant. While Kafka's still up in the air, he throws a shockwave punch and slams himself into the side of the vault. But then he takes a closer look and realizes Kafka's core ain't there. That's when he figures out Kafka must have removed his core at the last damn second to regenerate a new body behind him. Kafka and Isao go head to head, and the force is so damn strong that the vault starts cracking under the pressure. They just lost the second layer of shields. But that's expected when you got two of the baddest kaiju in the world throwing down in there. Number 8 and number 2. The deputy finds it weird, though, that the fight's gone on this long. Isao could have easily killed Kafka with his first attack if he really wanted to. While Kafka was still holding back, Kikaru thinks this means her old man's trying to give Kafka a chance to prove himself. Back at the 3rd Division base, Kaguragi's talking about how he joined the defense force because he wanted to save lives. But he ended up being saved by Kafka instead. Even though Kafka's a kaiju, he's saved countless lives and ain't caused harm to nobody. So Kaguragi believes Kafka should be judged by his actions. But right now, his actions are trying to straight up murder Isao. Isao dodges Kafka's punch and gets behind him to land a bunch of shockwave punches of his own. But even though they looked like they did damage before Isao hit the ground, Kafka carves out a huge chunk of Isao's abdomen, and things ain't looking good for him. Kafka's still doing everything he can to stop himself, but nothing's working, so he keeps attacking Isao. Isao has to go on the defensive, using his gauntlets as shields. But Kafka overpowers him anyway and sends Isao flying. As a last-ditch effort, Isao unleashes all the power of the number 2 gauntlets and shoots an energy blast at Kafka. But it doesn't do shit to him, and Kafka fires back with his own energy blast. Then he grabs Isao by the gauntlets and slams him into the wall. The whole time Kafka's desperately trying to stop himself because he doesn't want to kill Kikaru's old man while she's watching. Kikaru can't stand seeing her old man on the brink of death, and she remembers the promise she made to Kafka about killing him if he ever became a threat to humanity. But she still wants to believe that Kafka can regain control of himself. Kafka's giving it his all, trying to snatch back control of his body. But then that damn kaiju worm shows up out of nowhere and takes a big bite out of him. It looks like Kafka's lost control of his body for good now, and Isao's regretting his decision to give Kafka a chance. But while Kafka's drowning in his own thoughts, Kafka sees a memory of Mina saying she'll be waiting for him, and that gives him the strength for one final push to take back control. So just before he can punch Isao to death, he uses his arm to stab himself through the chest. And right before he passes out, he tells Isao once again that he ain't just a kaiju, he is a damn human. After Kafka collapses, Norimi's got his blade at Kafka's neck, but Isao tells Norimi to back off. Norimi reluctantly pulls back his blade and tells his men to stand down, but Isao actually asked Narumi, the commander of the 1st Division, to have his back. And even though Isao was getting his ass kicked, he refused to give the signal to attack. Isao claims he had everything under control, even though Kafka turned out to be a bit stronger than he thought. Then he calls in the base medics to come and take Kafka for treatment because his core might be messed up. In the meantime, Narumi asks Isao what he plans to do with Kafka now, and it seems like Isao's already made up his mind. Later, they have a board meeting where they tell Mina that Isao's already decided what's going to happen with Kafka, but they want to hear Mina's testimony as his commanding officer. She's been keeping an eye on Kafka since the day he joined the defense force, but the records show they've known each other way before they joined. Mina confirms it's true, but she adds that she ain't never shown him any special treatment. The board knows that's the truth because Mina even chose to fail Kafka during the exam, and it was actually Hoshina who wanted him to be accepted. And before they get started, they make it damn clear to Mina that a decision's already been made, so her testimony ain't gonna change Kafka's fate. They're just asking for her testimony as part of the damn paperwork they gotta do. They don't want her feeling responsible for whatever the outcome might be. Mina gets it, so she starts giving her report on Kafka. She can't say for sure if Kafka's a human or a kaiju, but she can vouch for his actions as a defense force member. During the Mushroom Kaiju incident, Kafka came through for his team by finding the reproductive organs that would have caused a massive disaster in the city. And most importantly, he saved everyone in the 3rd Division and the surrounding area from getting wiped out by the kaiju bomb. The board members don't seem to give a damn about the lives Kafka saved. Instead, they say he only pulled it off because of his kaiju powers. Mina doesn't deny it because when he first joined, his combat power was at a big fat 0, so he was only allowed to pass as a backup. And he also failed the damn exam 12 times before that, so in terms of age, he's the oldest one on her team. But even with all that, and the fact that his body turned into a kaiju, He never stopped trying to save people. Out of everyone she knows, Kafka hates giving up the most, and he's got more humanity than anyone else. If they're gonna consider anything when deciding Kafka's fate, Mina thinks it should be his heart. The board members get all worked up because they didn't ask for her damn personal opinion. But Isao thanks Mina for her time and tells her she can go back to her post. Once Mina leaves, the other board members think they can just ignore everything she said and go ahead with executing Kafka. But the final decision's still up to Isao. Down in the medical bay, Kafka is getting treated for his injuries. And even though he's unconscious, we find out he's got a deep hatred for kaiju after what they put Mina through when they were kids. So he made up his mind that if he was going to turn into a real kaiju and lose his mind, he'd rather die as a human. Kafka wakes up later in a damn hospital bed, and he's surprised he's still kicking. But then he sees Isao sitting by his side. Isao tells Kafka he ain't there to hurt him. And Kafka's just relieved he didn't end up killing Isao because he couldn't face Kikaru if he did. He then asks if the council has accepted him as a human. But Isao tells him that if Kafka really was a human, stabbing himself through the chest would have been a surefire death sentence. Yet he managed to survive. The council's made up their damn minds that Kafka's a kaiju without a doubt. But whether he's a threat or not is still up in the air. Right now, there's a whole bunch of people ain't down with keeping Kafka alive. When Isao made the call not to turn Kafka into kaiju equipment, but to let him live and fight for them, everyone in the room started raising hell. They're saying it's way too damn risky to let a kaiju fight on their side. But after Isao saw that Kafka was willing to off himself rather than becoming a full-on kaiju, he thinks they can trust him to stay in control. It's a known fact that Kafka's been going on missions with the 3rd Division for months now without any issues. And it ain't even clear if a weapon made from his body would pack much of a punch in the first place. So letting him live is the most logical choice to take on the recent surge of powerful kaiju. The others keep trying to argue that there ain't no precedence for something like this. But Isao doesn't give a damn if it's considered a war crime as long as it keeps the country safe. He reminds them all about the tragedy that went down with Kaiju number 6. Over 200 officers and 3 leaders lost their lives in that battle, including his wife. If something like that were to happen again with a whole bunch of kaiju, the country could easily go down the drain. But if they use Kafka's incredible power, they just might have a shot. Even with all the points Isao brought up, the others on the board are still dead set against the decision. So while Kafka might be allowed to keep breathing from now on, he's gotta prove his worth if he wants to survive. Even if the defense force only sees Kafka as a damn weapon, he still sees himself as a defense force officer. He swears he's gonna make Isao recognize him as one eventually. In the meantime, while Mina's leaving the building, she gets the message that Kafka ain't gonna get executed no more, and she's damn happy about it. Kikaru gets a message from Mina sharing the good news, and she's over the moon. But she also knows she can't be too damn thrilled about it because she needs to get stronger, otherwise she won't be able to keep her promise to Kafka and stop him if he ever loses control again. Ichikawa and the others get the news too, and Ihiro jumps up and down in joy when he hears it. Ichikawa stays pretty calm because he already knew Kafka would find a way to make it back to them. So he's gonna work even harder to get stronger by the time Kafka returns. Konomi and Hoshina hear the news too, but while Hoshina's happy for Kafka, he knows the real challenge is just starting. Once other organizations find out they got a damn kaiju on their team, they're gonna raise hell. For now it's a secret, but eventually people are gonna find out. So Kafka needs to prove his worth before that happens. So nobody can bitch about his presence. It's gonna be a whole lot of hard work. But Kafka's ready to do whatever it takes. Meanwhile, Kaiju number 9's been taking over the world's chess leaderboards to test how smart humans are, and he ain't impressed. On an individual level, humans ain't all that bright. But their strength lies in sharing information with each other. So he just needs to take that into account. He gets in touch with one of his clones and asks how the job's going. The clone tells him they've scoped out the base, so they're all set to move on to the next phase of their plan. And that plan is to get back the kaiju power that ended up in human hands. This was the end of Season 1. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more anime recaps.